should or participate or take part in bringing about issues to do with the drugs are the civic organizations within our country and internationally, if they are concerned about our country. And then I would also want to include issues of the religious groups, our churches. So what role do they play in bringing about and more specifically to make sure that in as much as we have got problems of our youth, our ordinary people abusing the drugs, but the problem could be actually coming from those people who are bringing in the drugs. We have got concerns in as far as people who say, yes, the police has been doing so much and there are some policies that have been brought about by the government. But one thing that I've noticed is to say most drugs that I see in Zimbabwe now and that are giving concerns to people in Zimbabwe are not manufactured, they are not produced in Zimbabwe. They are actually being produced mainly in the Asian countries. And when they are being manufactured outside Zimbabwe, we have got concerns and have got problems in as far as why we have got such things. And before I proceed, I think I need to give this time to Dr. Maifa to speak a mind in as far as the topic is concerned. Go ahead, Dr. Maifa.
Thank you very much, Mkoma Denford. And like you have said, the drug abuse problem is on the increase. Let me say, I lived in Zimbabwe, grew up under apartheid, under Smith rule. I saw the Mugabe era. I now see what we call the Second Republic. There's never been such amounts of drug abuse before, like in the Second Republic. In Smith's time, we never heard of this. In Mugabe's time, there was, but very under control. Now, schools and every place where the youths are, including the church, drugs are all over the place. So what has gone wrong? What has gone wrong? So that's what I can say at the moment. And some of us are speaking from a point of deep pain. If you have a loved one, a family member who is affected, it's painful. I personally have family members who are affected. And for rehab to take place, it's so expensive. For you to get admitted into a rehab, you need $1,200, $1,200. Where do you get it from in Zimbabwe? So let's look at this issue seriously, because we might claim, like Mkoma Denford said, oh, people are being arrested. If you go and arrest Matemba and you leave the real bream, the real fish, the real people behind that drug business, then we are doing almost nothing. And thank you very much, Mkoma Denford. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Now I think we've got our two speakers. But before I give them a chance to speak, I just wanted to quickly say the alarming rate of drug abuse in our country. I think it's so alarming to an extent that I don't think we need to really say who is speaking what here, because it's a concern. And when the consequences of drug consumption are actually getting into our communities, they don't discriminate who is what and where are they coming from. It actually affects everybody from within the communities. So I think I wanted to say the alarming rate of abuse of drugs has actually gone to the levels where we have got children as young as 9 years are being seen abusing these drugs at schools, not in universities, not in secondary schools, but in primary schools. We have got young children who are abusing them, and some are actually the agents of a sale for the drugs. And with that, I think it's something that people have got to take seriously, to an extent that we need to name and shame people who are peddling with the drugs, and people who are actually encouraging others to make money out of these drugs. So it's important that we need to speak about that. And some of the consequences that come as a result of taking drugs, it's much to do with the a person. We've got examples, a number of drugs, but let me not preempt it, because I think there are some people who would want to speak about that. I'll speak as I go. We've got Pelagia here, we've got Padari, we've got Awakening. I'll give an opportunity to Pela. She can bring about your submission.
Thank you, Danford. Nyaya yemadrugs inyaya inorwadza, especially inini kuyouth kamoya wangu unonzwa kurwadza zvekuti, but I think patasvika hapachatomboda kuti ndiriwe pati iyi ndiriwe pati iyi. Zvautongoda kuti tese tibatane tiite fight against this, because zvinhu zvikutongoafecta mwana wese, vana vazhinji, whether ari wemunhu wetriple C, weLead, weZanu, zvinhu zvikutongoafecta munhu wese, and this is very sad. Ini ndotofunga kuti kungoti dai zvangu ndandiine building chaiyo, iyi nzvimbo yekuti ndaidonata, kungoti torai zvenyu mahara panapa, muconverte muiwake maximum prison yakangomirira nemadrugs, ndandichatongopa hangu government for free, because zvinhu zvika izvi zviri kurwadza. I think munhu wese ngatisatomboti uyu mudiki kana kuti chii. Dai vanhu ngazvitore serious, angobatwa nemadrugs wese, whether kari ka small fish, because vese ivavo vanofanirwa kuita sei, kubviswa. Abatwa nemadrugs ese ngaasatombopihwa kana bheo, ngavabva wangoendeswa, handiti ngavanovharirwa. Ini handizozwa hangu capacity yemajeri ekuZimbabwe, but dai zvaibvira vese anenge atongobatwa, abatwa ngaataure kwaari kuyawana, but vese vachona chirakataura ngavasamusiya, because vanhu ivo vakadzoka. Pane vanhu vanenge vari making pin, tichakwanisa kusvika kumaking pin, because tikabata avakava hatichakwani, avakava vachapedzisira kusvika vasisina vanhu kuita sei, vekunopa kuti vanovatengesera mumastreets. Saka anenge abatwa, munhu wese atongobatwa chete, ngatione kuti vatovharirwa vanhu ivavo, and wavharirwa kudaro ngavatopiwe kana dai zvaibvira kana death sentence, zvaibvira ngazvizvazvo, because naivoka vauraya, vangana vanhu vanofa vari pamadrugs. Wotongonzi kana kuti ningirikini minimum sentence 30 years. This is going to stay kunoita sei atengesa madrugs. Saka tagona kubatana tese, vanhu vadura vanhu vari kubata madrugs, kana angobatwa chete, handisi kuti kuzongodurwa pana vanozongokwanisa kungonyika ngoti ninga anoita madrugs asinoita madrugs, abatwa wese paine evidence. awo mazita ari kubuda handizozoti pakabudiswa mazita ndiyaonawo pasocial media panapa pane here zvati zvaitwa kuti vanhu vevo vaite sei vasunge because ndo vamwe vari supposed vari kupi variko and varipo zvechwa because tinoziva kuti kune marana vanopinza maconsignment handizoziva hangu chokwadi but varipo it's obvious they are being protected. They are being protected, but parishioners zvikaitwa hapasisina kuti hanzi we need to protect anyone. Munhu wese atongobatwa chete ngaabatwa achienda kujeri kwacho nakwanenge achiswa ikoko ngaaende munhu wese kuprotectwa kuprotectwa which is wrong, especially iyo ukabatwa kana kuti vanhu vari mugovernment iyo ndo zvaibvira ndo vanofanira kuno kutongochekwa nekutongochekwa wachibva wafa because you said you're going to save the people, you're going to save the people nekudestroy youth nekuita self-enrich. Unotoshaura kuti vanhu vachonaka mari yachona inokunakidza chikonai inokunakidzei mari yakadaro yokuti you earn your living nekufa kunoita vanhu pamadrugs, vanhu vanokomita suicide, mafamilies anoparadzanisa. Pano vamwana kuti wakutorwa cherana amai ocherana baba chinokunakidza pamari yachona chipa pakadaro ipapo. Saka yes varipo vanhu vatiri kunzwa kuti they are very protected. Kwedu kunonetsa kana kuti titi unomasha unoswera warowa nzeve dzikafara. Dai zvaibvira taitoenda kana kunomasha pamba pawo because masita wabuda kutonotonzana nemapurisa kuti handei apa pari kunzi handiti vonya toita ma-investigations.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pela. And if you are still around with us, you can remain on the podium because I know you have got a number of things to speak. And it's important that as we are going ahead with our topic, let's make sure that we speak our minds but responsibly. So our next speaker that we are going to be having, Dr. Maifa, I'm going to come to hear your thoughts. Is awakening. After which you will give Padare the chance to speak. What I'm going to be doing is, because people have got a lot of content they want to speak, when you realize that I've unmuted my mic, it means that you are left with the next minute, so you will have to prepare to learn. Go ahead, Awakening.
Oh, thank you so much. And I don't go to one say it is my tracks, as is right. And those who say tangas will not go on. Naturally one
Zama awakening, sorry.
Okay. So yeah, nature one curious mindset on. Saka munhu pamunomuti musaro wemadrugs anenge achitomada. Mafactors akawanda anocontribute madrugs ave mustreet. Mafactors anocontribute achani to the failed economy chaiyo ikaparara kavanhu, they find ways ekuti vakwanise mari. That capitalism in a brutal way. Saka ndo mafactors then kunawana dongofita madrugs musociety ameno vanhu vachizviitira, but by the end of the day nyaya inyaya mari, nyaya evolves around money. Saka isusu sevanhu kana chida kuva moral isusu tinoidentifya vanhu vari kuita zvisi right, matransgression akadaro musociety tovapersecute, but otherwise vanhu musaro wemadrugs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was short, sweet, and precise. And I think a number of people are going to really emulate the way that we have submitted. Dr. Maifa, you've got any thoughts as far as the last two submissions were given?
Thank you, my sister Pela, and thank you, Mkoma Awakening. Yes. I agree with Pela to say people must get into trouble, whether it's the Matemba or the Brim. So whether you are a runner, whether you are the kingpin, get into trouble. And from what Pela was saying, as I also go through social media, like Twitter Spaces, I've seen female names being mentioned, not like young women. Kutonze, Amai Jolasi, Amai Nengi, meaning these are women with children. They are mothers. So I'm like, what is happening to us even as mothers, destroying our own children? So this is a serious problem. But as we deliberate, I wish we could find solutions towards this problem. What can the government do to stop this? What can the church do? What can the society in general do? What can families do to stop? Let's bring solutions, possible solutions to stop this problem. Thank you, Mkoma Denford.
Thank you very much, my doctor. I'll give this opportunity to Padare. Go ahead.
Hello. All right. Can you hear me, Danford?
Yes, I can hear you, but I wasn't hearing you initially. Go ahead.
It's okay. I hope you're not going to cut me and respect me, like I respect you when you come to my space.
Okay. Thank you. Let me just quickly respond. I respect everybody here within this platform, but I think you also came as we were bringing about or speaking about the ground rules here. Can you confirm
It's
okay. Thank you.
I was just
Thank you
letting
very much.
you know that you're not going to cut me like you did. See, this is an interesting time, right? Because why do I say this is an interesting time? Drug issues have always been there in Zimbabwe. They are here, they are across the world, and so forth. For those that have worked with young persons who are involved with this, adults and so forth, you can understand that this is has always been there. People take drugs for many different reasons. Take drugs for many different reasons. It doesn't matter whether one is rich or poor. That's the most important point that people really have to understand when it comes to drug and drug misuse. Because in the United Kingdom, we refer to treat as drug and drug misuse. So why am I saying this? We say it so that you said your space is about learning. So people will come in and bring expert knowledge around drug and substance misuse in relation to where we are. But from a political narrative, it'd be an interesting time to understand how politicians and those that are working within the political circles have been influencing within the society in addressing this issue, not just highlighting the problems, but where perhaps maybe CCC, MDC, APA, leads and all these guys within their youth groups. And it will be interesting to hear what initiatives they've been doing on the ground. And then we come to the government policy. It is an undeniable fact that the president, Idi Mnangagwa, highlighted the issues of drugs in Zimbabwe. So it means the government and the president himself is aware of the situation at hand and the problem at hand, and seeking to redress it. There are many people who are doing initiatives in Zimbabwe from a local level to government level. They are. It's happening. Should it be happening even more? Yes, that is what we should be saying. We should be fighting for more funding, more resources into these institutions that are fighting drugs. That's what we talk about when we talk about drugs. I work with young persons who uses drugs every day. Every day of my life, I wake up to work with these young persons, and what I see in there, whether they're coming from a poor family or a troubled family, or whether they're going through their traumas and so forth, but whether also they're just coming from a rich family where resources are abundant, and they're taking it for fun. People take drugs for fun. People take drugs to numb certain things. People take drugs for recreational or uses, and so forth, to hide their traumas. But what we should be addressing, which is constant, and I hear you when you say, how are the borders coming through? So this is where the government should supposed to be asking ourselves, how is the chain, and how do you break the chain of the drug? Majority of people that I've seen, who constantly go on and actually actively do the right things with drug policy, it's not the drug dealer that you go for, because it's a system, it's an underground world, it's a money scheming position. You can't deal with it, right? Because that is what
Yes.
they do.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, oh, okay.
Thank
I haven't finished
you.
where I was going to go. But what we
Okay.
should, okay, I'm just going to end now. What we should be targeting is the lowest level of understanding where the society, where these things are happening. The children, the family, at the lowest level. That's how you empower youth. You empower the young ones, in order when the risk comes to them. Because remember, it's exposure and the risk coming to the children that aids them to go into the systems, right? So when we empower people and you give them the voice to challenge, to go into this, the resilience to survive through the temptation or the drive to needing this drugs is where we need to be going through. But however,
thank you very much.
As you give
Thank you very much. You can always come back. But before you go, Padare, I wanted to engage you on one thing that you have said, that the president he is on top of the situation, and he has just put a number of mechanisms that are going to be addressing this issue. And we know it. Okay, personally, I know that we have had a number of policies and frameworks that have been put in place by the government. And when you make a review of what would have been done after the expiration of the proposed policies, you would realize that very few, if any, of those proposed issues would have been accomplished. One example of things that I would want to highlight, and I want you to answer me in 2 minutes, to say the government of Zimbabwe has actually put in place the Zimbabwe National Drug Master Plan that was in 2019, and it had to move from 2020 to 2025. Now we're almost left with 1.5 years to get to the bottom of the program. There hasn't been anything. I'm not too sure you're going to be giving me the results that came within that master plan. The presidential interministerial committee that was put also by the president, which is being chaired by Mr. Paul or Minister Paul Mazima.
Paul Mazima is the one who's here chairing that.
Yes. Who is sharing that? It was put in place, and it has got actually 5 pillars. I wouldn't want to waste time to talk about those pillars, but I think if you,
I know you understand the whole thing.
Listen here. Let me finish with my question to you. Last but not least, that presidential interministerial committee that was put by the president actually suggested that it has got to go to send a committee to Ghana. Ghana being the only African country which has done much effort to do with the issue of drugs. I wanted you to give me the progress in as far as these policies are concerned, and what came out of the Ghana committee. In just 2 minutes, thank you very much.
I'm not aware of what has come out now, but I like I said, there's enough time and resources that's missing. Even the president highlighted that there's a lot of work to do around that. That's an undeniable fact, isn't it? So when we are critiquing the government, like I've said, the government needs to do more. I say that in my first submission. I hope you understood exactly what I said. And I say they're doing something, and you highlighting that there's a policy, it means they've done something. So it means you've actually, but what we can do is critique the policy and its effectiveness. And you have done that according to you, which is a good thing. But I'm not here to critique that. I was talking in a different narrative in what I understand about drug misuse and substance.
Thank you.
You say it here. It's a place where people learn how to solve these issues. So if we are coming as a community, that's what you say. That's what the doctor said. I'm not coming here for propaganda. I'm coming here so that we can contribute, so that we can actually make a difference instead of finding the big needle in someone's eye. That's what we're trying to do. Thank you about drug misuse and substance misuse that we can actually change.
Okay, thank you very much, Padare, for that. And I'm happy that when we've got people from ZANU-PF being the ruling party, who can actually acknowledge that this, in as much as the policies are being put, and we had a lot.
Himself has actually acknowledged that.
We have got a number of people who would want to speak, Padare, and can I politely ask you to just let me finish what I'm speaking about, and then I will go to our next speaker. And this is the reason why I was being bashed by people on the social media to say, why is it that the topic has been framed in such a way that you are already giving blame to the government? Why? Because I would have seen issues that have been put in place by the government, the policies that have been put in place, not only about drugs, but a number of policies, but they actually, I would want to believe, have been put in place as electioneering mechanisms. Nothing comes out of it. But thank you. I can come back to you, Padare, please. I'll come back to you. Don't worry yourself. Let's go to our next speaker, being Zimbabwe. And
But I
Dr.
can comment on the topic because you commented on my
you can come you can come later. Don't worry. Zimbabwe, can you bring your submission, after which you will have Citizen C.
Thank you very much, host. Thank you very much for the space. Thank you very much, co-host. Thank you very much for co-hosting and all the speakers and all the listeners. Sometimes people speak very eloquently, but when people speak very eloquently, you have to be able to find out whether or not the things that they are saying have actually got substance, or whether or not it's just jibber jabber. Because somebody who is just yappy doesn't mean that the person is giving you facts. It doesn't mean that at all. Here is one simple fact. The policy came in 2019, and yet, parallel to the policy coming in, somebody was pictured Wachimonera Chimbanje Chavo Parali.
Therefore, I'll come back when the kids stuff finishes. I'll be back.
Achimonera achigadzira kuti ashute muruvana pedza ipapo. And then I'm talking about a whole president going to smoke a big blunt, a big joint. And then after that, you have a policy coming in. Do you really think that somebody that brings in a policy, whilst at the same time going to the gateway drug of hard drugs, is going to really want to tackle drugs within a geographical location? In my humble opinion, I'm not an expert, but from what I've seen and from what I've read, I emphatically say a big no. They will come in with a law. Let me tell you this, they will come in with a law, just like the law to end slavery was brought in by the British, was at the same time they still had slaves in the plantations in the West Indies. They had thousands, if not millions and millions of slaves in the West Indies. But in the UK, they had said, we are ending slavery. In America, the same thing happened. And yet, blacks were not free. They were promised, we're going to give you this. It was written in legislation, but nobody got anything. This is a fact. This is exactly what it is in Zimbabwe when it comes to the drug laws. The laws are there, but the will to enforce, the will to actually do something about it is not there. I'll give you somebody who did something about it, tangible evidence. The former president of the Philippines, Mr. Duterte. I will not utter what he said because it was very vulgar. But the after effects of what he did until today has got a lasting legacy. Yeah? He came out and said, this is what I'm going to do. And he did it. I'm the same person who said before that those who are looting are very fortunate that they're not in China. Many people are joining up with looters. People who are here on these spaces, they are joining up with looters. I was amazed to hear the president of Zimbabwe uttering similar words to what I said when he said those who are looting are lucky they're not in China. Me, I'm going to land there and say, in all seriousness, the government of Zimbabwe, which is ZANU-PF, ruling party right now, they've got nada, nothing. They've got no interest in tackling drugs, especially when you hear one of their biggest cheerleaders saying, go after the small fry, leave the big fish. Wow. I'll end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zimbabwe, and I understand you are rushing to work. Whenever you got a chance of just sneaking in, we need your brilliant ideas, and it's something that we need to really highlight and say as we are speaking here. Please, if people haven't got much to talk about. And if people would want to speak things that are no relevance, and when I'm saying this thing, I'm not talking about it, what has been spoken before, but I'm only saying we are speaking of things that have got to shape our country, and we expect people to respect our show. Thank you very much, Dr. Amaifa. I think you've got something to speak, after which we'll go to Citizen.
Thank you. I'm going to go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I want to thank Mkoma Zimbabwe for his submission. I also want to thank Padare for his submission. You know, it's two different things. Having a policy and its implementation. And Zimbabwe, since I was born, or since I started knowing what I was doing as an adult, has been very good at writing policy documents. But the implementation is where the problem is. We might waste millions of dollars to say we are implementing a drug policy, blah, 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 but there is no project monitoring. There is not even orientation on how to implement it. So how is it going to work when people are ignorant of the policy? If you ask most of the concerned citizens in Zimbabwe, they don't even know the existence of this policy. And there are no tools put in place for its implementation. So that's where the problem is. And I'm talking from experience. My own blood brother was the chairman of the Land Tenure commission in Zimbabwe. He was paid thousands of dollars then as a professor in agriculture to do that. But was it implemented? No. The politicians went to do their own grabbing and their own, style of doing things. So let's talk about practical things. What has the current president done? And one thing that I want to mention here, that I've seen on Twitter, that I've seen on Facebook, if I am the leader of a family, I bring in gunmen, I bring in thugs to my home. What do my children see? What is the country seeing? You see somebody at the state house, maybe a prophet or so-called prophet, the next thing is the one distributing drugs. So how are things gonna change? I'm not mentioning names because I have no evidence, but that's what I see on social media. Follow Never Maswera there on social media. You see it all names being put on the table. And some of it, I have every reason to believe it. Because if I see somebody pretending to pray in tongues and then they are saying, hey, Bondi Raka, Bondi Daramba, and I'm like, Jesus, is this where we are going? Thank you, Mkoma Denford.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And it's something that is so appalling, and sometimes we need to be very, very, very careful as Zimbabweans to say where exactly do we want to drive our country to. And as I also said in my intro, that we have got various stakeholders that should participate in shaping our country and actually eradicating this prevalence of drugs in the country. Citizens themselves, we have got power. Unfortunately, our powers are muzzled by the government, which is so ruthless. We also have got these churches. We also have got non-governmental organizations. They need to work extraordinarily hard so that our country come right. Professor Ferreso, I see you. Jules, I see you. But let me give this, and Chan, I also see you. Let me give this chance to Citizen. But when you are giving your submission, Citizen, what comes into your mind when you see mai vachibuda misodzi vachichema paTV vachitaura nyaya yekuti inini I've just lost my 3 children through drugs, and andifungi ukuthi kuchaita anything. The reason why I'm talking about this thing is Dr. Maifa has spoken about the issue of rehabilitation centers, which are so prohibitive as far as accessing them is concerned. The country doesn't have any institutions that can rehabilitate our victims of drugs. But go ahead, citizen.
Thank you so much, my brother Denford. And hello to my favorite Dr. Amai and my favorite Professor Feresu, also my brother Padare, and everyone on the stage here. It's great when we come together like we are doing, particularly for a problem like drug abuse. I know that we are looking at a big elephant and everybody is focusing on one aspect, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's the health aspect, whether it's the psychological aspect. So when you see a mom saying they have lost their child in high school, it's traumatic. It's heartbreaking. And unfortunately, this is something I just don't get to see on TV. I work in hospitals here in America, and my drugs are a big problem. Okay, so we have learned a lot from what America has gone through when we were in high school in Zimbabwe or in college. There was a drug problem, but drug problem was mbanje, munaputa mbanje or whatever. Nevanhu vari kuabuse alcohol. Zana Mutoriro and all this stuff that we are seeing today, that wasn't at the rate it is 20 years ago. And that's why I think it's very important when we talk about drug abuse to look at it in a holistic manner. I mean, in a complete manner. Let's not just focus on government policy. Let's not just focus on the health aspect, but it's a whole, all hands on the deck approach. And I know here in America, the initial knee-jerk reaction for my drugs was there are a few drug peddlers, jere, kana ukauya ukawanikwa nema-drugs, and it happened to affect my blacks more than my whites and all that. And I appreciate that my brother Padare has been trying to say, hey, listen, let's talk about this, not in terms of on a partisan manner, and we shouldn't. And I agree with him on that 100%. So I'm saying that to say, yes, there is a criminal justice aspect where if you are selling drugs to teenagers at high school who don't know any better, you are killing their future, you're killing them, because it transitions from just a recreational thing to a medical issue where these kids become dependent all their life and you are shortening their life expectancy. So that's the criminal aspect, and that the government can address. However, drug abuse gets to a place where it's now a medical condition for those who are affected, where they become dependent, where they can't do without taking the drug. Sometimes, I have seen people here who take heroin, and if they don't take heroin for a few days, they come in, they're sweaty, like you're like, what's going on? And sometimes they go into cardiac arrest. So it becomes a medical issue. So my American society has realized that it's not just a criminal issue. It's now a medical issue, where like the same way we know in families, anyone who are alcoholic, and sometimes it's genetic. So those aspects come in. I'm just trying to say to everyone, look, let's not be simplistic in how we look at this. Let's look at it holistically. I think that the government obviously has not done enough. And I think that society, civil society, my churches, my political leaders, my families, everyone, we need to come together so that we nip this in the bud. Because it affects every family. It's not about how rich or poor you are. The kids that are getting access to these drugs, they don't know no better. And it's not about this kid is from a rich family, this kid is from a poor family. It's just kids who are not supposed to be preyed on by my drug law. So that has to be addressed, and all of us have to stop. I know some people obviously will want shielding from politicians or from whatever. So they're gonna line up with whoever is in power for that time, so that they can get away with murder. They bribe my police. There's all kinds of stuff. I think that everybody has a role to play. The government, obviously, one of the things that they are supposed to do is the safety and security of all of our Zimbabwean citizens. And drug abuse is one big problem that we need to nip in the bud as quickly as we can. We need to take care of those who are already addicted through rehab facilities like Dr. Mai was talking about. So let's look at this problem universally. Let's look at it holistically. Let's find my solutions which work for everybody. I know I can talk forever, but thank you so much, my brother Danford, for this opportunity.
Dr. Aranga, thank you very much. I didn't notice that it's you there, but before you go, and I know on this Sunday you could be very busy. Thanks very much for that approach that you have taken. And in my submissions, introductory submissions, I actually highlighted that it is important that we need to take it as something that is affecting Zimbabweans. And I think even Pella highlighted that drug consumption or drug abuse doesn't have any political boundaries. So when we would want to tackle this problem, really let's take out our political gloves and just be ourselves, and that can only help. Unfortunately, when we have policymakers that actually would not want to acknowledge the prevalence and also the how bad it is within our country, then that's when we'll be having a problem in the first place. But I wanted your comment, Dr. Ranga, there to say, we have realized, and I think everybody acknowledges that this problem, most of the drugs that we have in our country, Zimbabwe, with the exception of possibly marijuana, which is mbanje, most of them they are being produced outside Zimbabwe, and the government is actually put in place mechanisms that is going to be restricting or forbidding the coming in of these drugs from other countries through the bringing in of stakeholders such as the police, our judiciary, as well as the immigration department. How effective, in 2 minutes, do you think that is going to bring about change in the problem that we have in Zimbabwe?
Thank you, my brother Danford. I think that we'll have to see how well they can bring everybody together. I am heartened by the fact that CCC has a campaign regarding drug abuse, and I hope that all the political players in the country would do the same. And also we would work with my civic organizations, my churches, of course, the police forces to do everything. I think it remains to be seen. Here in America, they do a lot of work. They have a lot of resources, but this is an ongoing problem. What I mean by that is you may have all those law enforcement stuff going on. People will always find a way. They'll find a way to bring this stuff. It might reduce it to an extent, but they will try to find a way. The best way is to educate, civic education, and to make sure that those who may be affected, we quickly get them help so that it doesn't become a recurring problem for them. Because once it becomes a medical issue, we should embrace these people and get them help quickly. Sometimes we then say, I don't want to go up at my house because we're with my drugs and stuff. Sometimes families end up taking that approach to protect those who are not affected already. So we need a more holistic approach. And I think if we work together, everybody, to say, let's try to minimize the impact of this, we're going to get better results. I don't think we'll completely have this problem go away. It's not going to go away, but there are things we can do to make it less likely. Thank you, my brother Danford.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Aranga. And I'm so touched by your submission, especially for somebody who is from the medical industry. And we expect to have people from the medical industry to come and give us especially suggested solutions that are apolitical and that will actually help our motive of bringing Zimbabwe together. But thank you very much. Professor Teresu, thank you very much for coming to engage with us on these topics that we have you. And I would want to believe, if I'm mistaken, apologies, but I would want to believe they are also into the medical field. I would want, in your submission, can you also highlight the issue of the non-availability or less rehabilitative programs that we have, actually public rehabilitation centers within Zimbabwe, and such restrictive charges that are being given by the private sector to help those affected victims. But go ahead with your submission and maybe end up with what I've just asked you.
Thank you very much, and Dr. Ranga, please don't take away my professorship by making such a sound presentation, and you covered most of the things I was going to talk about. Thank you very much. And I also heard from Padare. Listen, guys, this is not a political issue. This is a real social problem, which then complicates into a medical problem. And it is a problem, like Dr. Ranga is talking, I think, from the US. It is a real problem, Dabasaze, don't laugh. It is a real problem that has happened in many countries. Those who live in the US know that this is a big problem. And it usually comes from South America. In our situation, the problem is coming from South Africa. Let's be just frank. In most of those drugs that are coming into the country, like bronco thing and so on, are coming via South Africa. Kunuk, South Africa, there's also, I did a dissertation with one student, Unyope. They do unyope as well. And cocaine is very rampant also in South Africa. So we see that the drugs are moving across, but it's not only South Africans, it's also countries north of us. So this is a real problem that has happened. I'm actually in the middle of writing a proposal for funding on this issue. I talked with Kaseke. You know Kaseke? He was doing a PhD, and he was actually MDC linked, and he was working on rehabilitation. He went to do his study in Zimbabwe. He was actually doing some Facebook, but he has disappeared. I have no idea what happened to him. I know that there is a center as you go to Beatrice. There's a rehabilitation center there. I am yet to find out more. I think we need more. And as I listen to you today, as I'm writing this proposal on drug, it's drug abuse. There's drug use, as Padare said, then drug abuse. I've written several articles for methamphetamine use in the VA in the US. I was in Nebraska. So it's an area, and also I did some for Indiana. It's an area of my interest, and I'm here mostly to listen to what you guys are talking about. You might want to change your heading to say drug abuse in Zimbabwe. How can we mitigate it, or something like that? Because the title makes it political, yet this is not a political issue.
Sorry. Excuse me, Professor. I'm very sorry. I'm going to stick with my topic, unfortunately. And this is what I've just seen.
Okay, David. Okay, I hear you, David. I hear you. You and I are not enemies, remember? So I hear you. I hear what you want to attract people. So I understand what you're doing. So anyway, what I wanted to say was, this is a big issue. It's a family issue. You know, you think about the tree. It starts with the individual, into the family, then into a community, then into a society. So it's not just a one size fits all. And what are the reasons? Some people are saying the social issues, but I've known people who were going to George's vachisvuta mbanje vana vanhu vakatofuma kudhara
Prepare to lend. Sorry, Professor, there we have got a number of people, but I'll give you another minute to just wind up.
Denford, you are becoming unfriendly. So I've known this in rich and poor people. Even if you think about kumwiwa kwekachasu, unozwa kachasuka ibikwa kaya kana kumanyamero ichi kachasika alcoholism iri very hard. So we have had this problem. It's become worse. So the idea is, how do we mitigate this situation? How can we assist people? What is it that needs to be done? Which is exactly what you are talking about. And I've given you one rehab I am aware of. And so we need more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. We as long as we've got a slot for people to speak, you can still remain there, and then we can come to you. I acknowledge the coming in of Sandra Daba Magneto. Thank you very much for coming in, and I will say that I'm not, unfortunately, going to be taking my government with soft gloves, because this thing that is happening, we have had, like I said before, we have had a lot of policies that have been put in place by the government, and it is not only about drugs. It is much to do with how our country has got to be shaped. But we have we've got those documents and policies being actually accumulating dust, nothing happening. But thank you, Dr. Maifa. Do you have got anything to speak? Then we can go to Chan. Has been there for quite some time.
Thank you very much, host. I want to thank Dr. Ranga and Professor Feresu for their submissions. We might want to sweeten things and be technical about things. Chokwadi ndechekuti chatemesa musoro chii, because we might say drugs are a health problem. They are an educational problem. Kwese kwatinoenda even legal, kwese kuzvinozwa kuti vanhu vatyore mutemo, chatanga poor governance ndo yatanga. Then the issue spreads all over the place. Yes, it's now a health problem, but had we had a government with a good legal system, with a good, CID system, with a straight police department that is not corrupt. Drugs aya muri kutoziya kaprofesa kuti ari kubva kusouth. Zviri kutozikanwa ndimi vakuru vacho veikoko, muri kutozviziva. So why is somebody not stopping that? Since we know ari kubva kusouth, ari kupinda napapi, and who is letting them come in? So let's not polish things. The government is the problem. The government is the problem. It's like I tell you, there are no rehab centers. When icho chiri kutaurwa naDr. Ferris chiri kuBeatrice uko, zviro zviya zvakangofanira kuti unongoona pane kachimubhedha, hauna chikafu, hauna anything to occupy your mind. You know, if you have a bad habit like drug abuse, you must be taught a replacement behavior so that you don't go back to that bad behavior and mad drugs. What are you now focusing on? I can take my obsession on drugs to maybe playing darts or doing something else. Akuna replacement. That's not rehab. Thank you, Mkoma Denford.
Yes. Thank you very much. I think personally, I will tell you, I think I'm so much appalled by what has been happening in Zimbabwe. And like Dr. Ranga is just said, we need to be very holistic as we are speaking about this subject. It is something that is imperative and let's take out our political gloves, because the problem with our politics, with Zimbabwe's politics, is it has actually killed everything. From economy to social issues to anything has just been polarized. And then how are we going to be solving our country? I see you want to respond to Professor. I'll come back to you. Let me go along with what I've just thought about. Magneto is going to come back. He's going to come. Pela, I see you. I'm going to give you a chat. No, it's Chan, Magneto, and then I will give Pela a chance to just speak your mind. But please, can we restrict our submissions to just 2.5 minutes? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Denford. I myself am a bit different because I am actually a recovering addict. I was addicted to substances for a good 5 years. So I've lived in these circles. I have seen what it's about. I have lived in these communities. The good thing for me is this was in South Africa, not in Zimbabwe. But I just came back to Zimbabwe and I've seen that there's a scourge of this Mutoriro. I was actually hooked on Mutoriro. They call it crystal meth in South Africa. And I was also hooked on crack cocaine. Now, the thing about this issue is the drug dealers themselves are addicted to making money as much as the drug addict is addicted to the drug. So there's very, very low chance of stopping this scourge if we do not politicize it. Because for drug peddlers to see a market in any country, they need to approach someone in higher up to allow for these things to come in. It's not just the border official, it's not just your ZRP police on the road. No, there's someone higher up who authorizes these things to come in. It's just like the smuggling of cigarettes that's happening in South Africa now. Someone is authorizing these things from here to there, and someone is receiving them there. So it's unfortunate, but then the government, fingers have to be pointed at the government. Someone is eating, someone is making money from destroying people's lives. And the fact that they do not care about it shows you how greedy and selfish they are. It's sad because I personally put my mother through a whole lot when I was addicted. And I saw what I put her through. And this changed me as a person now that I'm back to the light. But so many people do not have a chance to do this. And it's sad because drug substances actually target the mostly the people who are potential change makers in the society. These people could have been potential game changers, but they're now, because they're hooked on substances, they totally lose focus of where they're supposed to go. So I personally, what I have seen working in a country like South Africa is when the community said enough is enough, because we know these people who are selling these drugs, these foot soldiers. We don't know the people at the top. Yes, granted, but we know these foot soldiers vanomira pamakona vachitengesa, vanovingwa nemapurisa vachipa chioko mhomwe. We know them as communities. As soon the once communities say, you know what, we are tired of our kids being put through this, and they approach these dealers personally, communities, not to put the law into their own hands or whatever, but to apprehend them and get whatever they have that they're selling and provide it as proof kune mapurisa kuti amubata uyu nezvinhu zvake izvi zvirapa. Once we start standing up as communities, this thing will never change, because everyone is eating from it, and there's a lot of money in this drug trade. I've seen it happen. I've seen the ins and the outs of it, and I'm speaking from personal experience. So we can never depend on our government, to be honest, unless we get a government that is sincere about taking care of the youth. Nothing will change. We have to rise up as communities. Thank you, Denford, for your time.
So before you go, Chan, is that Chan, eh?
Yes, Chan.
Yes, Chan. But before you go, I just wanted to inquire from you, Kuti, and if you have got time, can you just also remain? I'll be asking you more questions on that. But I wanted to find out from you, Kuti, your rehabilitation first, did it take place in Zimbabwe or in South Africa where you were, and how much did it cost you to tapiwa urongoswa pana pane kusimudza ruoko nayo mana pana vanhu vakawanda imbomira shamwari Chan so how much did it cost you to undergo the rehabilitation? Just those two questions. Thank you.
To be honest, Denford, I didn't want to focus on how I recovered because a lot of people might not see my way of thinking. I think Jules was there just now, but she left. But mine, to be honest, was what they call cold turkey, God's grace. I just woke up one day and I said enough is enough, and I really just put everything away. I had seen how much I had put my mom through, and I acknowledged the fact, Kuti, I've made my mother suffer. I acknowledged the fact that I made a lot of people around me suffer. I acknowledge the fact that if I continue with what I'm doing, I'm either going to end up in a grave, in a jail, or in an institution. So I was really honest with myself, and it's not easy to do. But inini dzanga dzitori nyasha dzamwari, because my whole family was praying for me because they knew the potential that I carry. the potential that I possess. They all prayed for me, and I just woke up one day, and it was a thing of the past. That's my story, but I didn't want to focus on it because sometimes when you tend to bring in Zamwari, some people will tell you we don't believe in God and whatnot, whatnot. So I just didn't want to make the space uncomfortable. But that's my story, and thank you for asking me.
Thank you very much, and apologies if I just intruded in your personal thing. But I acknowledge that, and one thing that we need to understand is there are a lot of Chanis outside there. They've got their stories to tell, and when we come through on these platforms and we are being so sincere, we need to really know that some of these things we speak about them hypothetically, or in a theoretical way. There are some people vanenge vakatobatikana practically and zvakavatovabatira ivo or my family members avo. So as we speak, please let's be very sensitive of vamwe vanhu vanenge vakaaffectika mukati meupenyu hwavo. Guys, tinochienda pano kuna mukoma Magneto, and please let's restrict our submissions to 2 minutes, please.
All right, thank you. Guys, I think for me 2 minutes might be a little bit short, but I'll try to squeeze in. Of late, I've found it so sad listening to Zimbabweans, especially on spaces, when we are talking about issues affecting Zimbabwe, for two reasons. One, we pretend to ignore the truth and we talk along political lines. So, two, I've discovered most of the people who are in the diaspora, who are maybe predominantly on these spaces, are out of touch with the reality. I was in Zimbabwe for the past 6 weeks. I only came back last week, and I'm a frequenter person who goes to Zimbabwe now and then. When it comes to drugs in Zimbabwe, people know who is selling drugs. People know where to get the drugs. There are two types of drug dealers in Zimbabwe. Especially, I will give the example of Bronco, brown clear. There are those who bring in Bronco from South Africa and they sell as wholesalers. And there are those who are runners who sell like small bottles. I want to give like an example which happened to me. 2020, just before the last lockdown, I was in Zimbabwe. I had flu. I was born and brought up in Warren Park. That's my territory. So I was talking to my uncle. I said, hey, I've got bad flu. I need some cough syrup. Let's go to the shops. Then he said, no, why should we go to the shops? And they're 27 Crescent. So we live in 8th Crescent. No, in 26th Crescent, sorry. So we went to 27th Crescent. Per number one, it was those who are in Warren Park. I want you to write down this address. There is a woman there called Shandi, number 1, 27th Crescent, Warren Park 2. Her boyfriend is a commissioner in the police. She was a lawyer at that house, and she sells Bronco all sorts of drugs. Patakashika pamba pacho, anenge akagara pasofa so, ari mumba, achitengesa nepa window. She asked me, do you want a full bottle or a half bottle? Because I had flu, to be honest, I don't want to lie, I had to buy. That's when I realized this is what's going on. And it was late around 10 at night. There were young boys around that house. And the boyfriend, who I think is whether she's a small house to that police commissioner or what, is a frequent visitor to that house. It's known in the whole of Warren Park. If you go to Maswera say never, list, he wrote my Shandi. No, it's actually the Shandi who is the dealer, but she's known and she's protected by the police. Then I spent 11 days in Bedbridge. I was clearing my car there. The drug laws in Bedbridge, and whoever wants to quote me can quote me here, I don't care, and that's the truth. Lana Kimbo Mohad. If you go to Kimbo Mohad's children, one of his, and 2 container ships, Pambapaki, he deals in cigarettes and he deals in the importation of Bronco. When Kimbo Mohad separated with his wife, was it Tampuzani Sam? He moved out of his house and he was staying with that son of his, with those 2 containers in the yard. And right now, as I speak, those now a video doing the rounds. Fanta showing that Mutorio. And who that house? CIO, they do background checks on you. How come who are known to be drug peddlers in Zimbabwe pictures of State House? Is CIO not doing background checks on those people before they get to State House? Fundal is a permanent feature. Functions, but he's a drug peddler. What does that mean if now you say President Mnangagwa is doing something fighting drugs? He's not doing anything. And for us to fight the drug problem in Zimbabwe, it's not finding youth what to do and all that stuff. It's to cut the supply, of which people who are involved in supply, government officials. If you go to Bedbridge right now, I got to learn something. And for me, it was a shocker. Panama Purisa are escort my trucks and diplomatic escort. I saw it with my eyes. And those trucks, they are not screened. They don't go through the scanner because there will be a police officer escorting, and that police officer will be armed with an AK-47 to and from South Africa. And those are the trucks which are used to import drugs into the country. Who is involved? Government officials. I would advise diaspora.
So Magneto, I'll give you the last minute, please.
Yeah. Okay, people, be informed. It's so that we come here, we talk things which are progressive, and because I can hear a lot of people, they talk on the political lines, distorting the truth. The situation on the ground, Akuchina youth, they've been destroyed with this Mutoriro. Unoana munagangomira street, so you can go for 3 hours. Under scorching hot sun, or what? Are paralyzed? No response, no blinking, no what? This is how bad the drug situation was. It's not as simple as what we think is what no one on social media. The situation on the ground is really bad. And the drug peddlers are known. And the drug peddlers are linked to government officials. And most of them, they get linked to government officials for protection, so that their loot just passes through the police checkpoints without any searching or any of that sort. So with that, guys, the government has to be serious with fighting this issue before we go down to the youth. Rehabilitation, they won't work. In as much as if in every school is a rehabilitation center, Yema drugs for Zimbabwe at the moment, but for as long as the supply line is open, you are fighting a losing battle. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Magneto. And sometimes when you are speaking, like I said, that it's very difficult to comprehend, and this is the reality that is on the ground. We really want to have a situation in which Zimbabweans have got to come as a common people and say we need to do away with these drugs. And one thing that you've just said, especially to do with the rehabilitation centers and so on, I was also touched by that. Why? Because as long as we do not close in on the supplies and those people, the kingpins of it, then it doesn't work, it doesn't help. But before I go to our next speaker, let me hear from Dr. Maifa. And after that, Dr. Maifa, you will speak of the person who is going to come afterwards.
Thank you very much, Mkoma Denford. I appreciate the submission from Mkoma Magneto. Speaking the truth will set us free. We want the truth. So the channel which is bringing in the drugs should be closed, like Magneto says. Otherwise, we are fighting a losing battle. And if the people bringing in the drugs are, the untouchables, the next thing is then those untouchables must change. Let's bring change to Zimbabwe. That's the only solution. This is a political problem. We can't run away from it. We cannot run away from it. Initially, my sister, Dr. Diamond, was on the speakers there. Now, I don't see her anymore. So I will kindly ask Knife to take 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mkoma Denny. Thank you, everybody. This is really sad, but I think what we're trying to do here, we are trying to solve, put a bandage on a big gushing wound, right? This is all the result of a degradation of society. This is bigger than than trying to build 2 or 3 rehabilitation centers when you have a hospital system that is already defunct and not able to support the people, right? And you're going to try to spend your energy on building 1 or 2 or 3 rehabilitations to solve a drug problem. But if you step a step back from the drug problem, those people who are bringing the drugs are just people who are trying to find a way for themselves to stay alive in a degraded society, right? So now, when the society and those who are running things can't handle their own budget, it affects the pocket of everyone else. I always keep giving this example. Before I left Zimbabwe, I deposited in my bank, Barclays Bank, 1,000 US Zimbabwe dollars. And I've never had the opportunity to remove that 1,000 Zimbabwe dollars. It's not worth what it was when I put it in the bank no more. It's gone to zero, right? So we're trying to solve the problem from the back instead of trying to go from the front, right? So I think what we need to do is the accountability of our elected officials, for them to be sitting in closed rooms and coming up with their own solutions. I'll give you an example. If the bus driver continues going the wrong direction for 3 hours, and everyone in the back of the bus is whispering amongst each other that he's going the wrong way, he's going the wrong way, we will keep going the wrong way forever until somebody stops the bus and ask the bus driver, if you don't know where we're going, let somebody take over, right? So this is where we are at. It is way bigger than just the drug problem seller or the drug user. It's the economy. People got to do whatever they need to do to feed themselves. And unfortunately, the drug issue is easy because my crack cocaine, you can cook it at home. You can cook these drugs with all of the stuff that is under your kitchen sink right now. Drano, that plug for unplugging the drain, all of those things for clean percent of these very addictive drugs. So it's so easy to produce them. We are an economy where people are starving and they can't cope with the current situation. People are looking for different avenues to find money. So I have always tried to explain to people in Zimbabwe that we need to divorce ourselves from giving the government or the people in power our control of our wallet. You need to educate yourselves and your kids about the digital currency. I promise you, Ndirim Zimbabwean, I will not come on these spaces and lie to you. If you are not trying to educate yourself about ownership, self-custody of your wealth, and understanding what Bitcoin represents on this world right now, you will be even left further behind in the dark ages. So it is self-sovereignty. Look at Nigeria, Nasi. There are lines going around the whole entire city. People are trying to go to the ATM machine at the bank to remove money, and the government is refusing them to remove their own money. So Nigeria is moving towards Bitcoin. Same thing with El Salvador, was the poorest country 5 years ago with the worst drug problem. There was trafficking drugs. That was the headquarters of drugs coming to America through El Salvador and Mexico. Look at El Salvador today. Young president, he understands the idea of blockchain. He understands how Bitcoin will separate himself and his government from that US dollar, which all of these people are searching for. The drug dealer wants the US dollar. So my friends and everyone who, if you are anyone who has an authority or something in this place, I think we need to spend more time in these spaces and be open-minded to opinions, because some of the solutions which we are imagining on our own, we lose sight of the bigger problem. The bigger problem is that we have been in control of the richest country on the planet. And right now, we are unable to produce food to feed our own self.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done? I was gonna give you another minute to just wind up.
I'm done. Thank you, man.
Thank you very much, Knife. I've realized that, Professor, you are there, and Padare, I see your hand up as well. Pela, I'll come to you. Let me give Ndaba the chance to speak because he has had problems with his network. And Ndaba, as you are giving your submissions, I would want you to delve into what Magneto has talked about, especially to say, we have the suppliers. We've got those who are bringing in the drugs, and unfortunately, those seem to be very protected. When they are protected like that, how are we going to make sure that those people are going to be made accountable, and then the problem is going to actually be done with once and for all? I'll give you a chance, and go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mkoma, for hello, everybody. It's a pity that whenever we discuss issues of national significance, we tend to run away from telling each other the truth. The drug issue is an international problem. We all know. But in Zimbabwe, it is a chief political problem, which we don't want to agree it is. Magneto stated all the things associated with the drug proliferation. It's like some people at the top control the industry. But you know how we are ruled. If you see police officers escorting trucks that are transporting drugs that is killing the social fiber, as we have heard, we no longer have youth. They have all been destroyed. But we have a government that is not even showing any interest to take punitive measures to nip this problem from the bud. I think the only solution we have is to vote the very government out so that we put our systems in place. We make the drug peddlers accountable. Because it's like ira mvura pamusana wedhadha. Do we talk about it without acting? Kebo Moati is a senior member. He's a senior citizen of Zimbabwe. But drugs are dispatched from his backyard. So if we say we've got shake buildings or these lower settlements where we think drugs are being sold, while at least we know the source, we are failing to point out and stand up against it, we won't be responsible enough to protect the future generation. Let's encourage our people and sensitize them that this government is unwilling to deal with the drug issue. Actually, they are the beneficiaries, both financially and politically. If you see in these rallies how the youth are drunk and the level of violence that is committed, particularly to opposition by the ruling party, it's pathetic. There is no sane youth who can beat a 70-year-old person if they are not drugged. So it's a problem that has got so many dimensions. On the one hand, they are benefiting financially. Secondly, they use drugs to remain in power, because once they drug those youth, the youth become violent to an extent of even killing opposition members. What kind of society are we? It's high time we stood up to protect our future generation. For now, I will end there.
Thank you very much, Ndaba. It's important that we speak about that and candidly, so that people will really understand. I see our new speakers here, but let me clear the ones that I've seen here. Pella, I'll give you 2 minutes. Padara, I'll give you 2 minutes. Professor Ferres, I'll also give you 2 minutes. Pella, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Danford. I think zvanoda unyataura zvabatwa naNigrkin anonzanina Magneto. Panyaya yekuti marihabi guys, imbofungai kuti dai vanhu vanga vachikwanisa kutora munhu wese ane problem yemadrugs woenda kumarihabi, angakwani here marihabi centers neproblem nekuwandisa kwaita vanhu. Tinoda kuita action iyoyo, ngative neprison 1 zihombe, munhu wese angori nechekuita nechemadrugs. Kuwana mungoona pane video yekuseculata yemapurisa anga yachinzi munhu wekusaningjo, mungoona kuti pane mapurisa ari kutenga madrugs. Kutotanga nemapurisa ivawo, vanhu vemutemo vari kuita ipapa pamadrugs ipapa. Basa ravo izvozvi kana wato-identifyiwa, ngavabve, havakodzere vanhu ivavo, because panzvimbo kuti vasunge vanhu vari kutengesa madrugs, ivo vatori pakati pekutenga, ene mukoona kuti vari pavhidhiyo. Saka tikatanga nekutobata vanhu ivavo nevari kutengesa kana 10, ngavasungwe vachinoiswa kuchijeri chechi vese ivavo. Iko zvinezvi patobuda nyaya yekuti vanhu vakembo, dai izvozvi pane vanhu chaivoka vanonyatsotedzera mutemo, vanonyatsokuva nemainterest evana vekuzimbabwe vakutoenderwa. Kembo is not untouchable. Iye kana Kembo anga achiziva is not above the law, kana anga achiziva kuti mwana wako ari kuita ende neposition yake, ndo vanhu vari supposed kungopa vachitobviswa iwowo pamaposition. Kutanga neivavo kusvika kune vachona vari kusupply, because tikatanga musakanganwa vanhu kuti pamadrug laws panogona pane madrug laws machinese chaiwo, unoziva pane machinese madrug laws, panogona pane maindians madrug laws, koita mabhoyi. Problem ine vanhu vanosupply vanhu vakasiyana-siyana varipo vakatowandisa vakasiyana-siyana. Saka vanhu ngatitangei neikaka kari mustreet aka, musatombokasiya kana kari kashengesa kana 5 ngakabatwa kachibva kanokandwa kupi kujeri. Kana Zimbabwe ichaita example muAfrica kuti kuZimbabwe nyaya yemadrugs haiiti, zvitori nani kuti tiite senge kuchina zvamanotaura izvozvo, because tinotoda action zvokuti hanzi rehab inobatsira chi. Tikada kuvatose kurehab ese anozara hatikwanisi kuwaisa, because tichisawa tiri kuisa kurehab ava vari kungoramba vachingosupply chete kuchange kunenge kuchiita sei kuchida vamwe. Saka solution ndeyekungoti atongobatwa chete ane anything chekuita nemadrugs ngaasatombopiwa kana bheo, ngabva aenda. Ndedai watoita nzvimbo chaiyo yekuita sei yekuisa yekuwaka prison yekuti vanhu avo vanyatsokukwana munhu wese ari pamadrugs. Saka ipapa mazita awanda atiri kuona ari kuseculata. Dai pane vanhu watotanga neiwo ana Fantani wachona, yaFantani yaseculata sei nanhasi achiri kungofamba yarakidzwa pachinyatsokuonekwa aine paketi. Ndakaona vhidhiyo sei achiri kufamba. Why nothing is happening to him? Hazviite vanhu vese wataurwa nana maishandi wachona kana vari kuzikana iye boyfriend yawo iye commissioner iye ngaatobvona iyewo futi, because he is not wait kuti atoite position yari iyoyo kana achibvumidza madrugs. Munhu wese aonekwa, even nemapurisa aonekwa, please, kana pano vanhu vanokwanisa vari padhuze nawo vesewo ngavabva vatobuda basa, ngavabude basa. Maishandi wabuda, maishandi wachona ngaanotorwa, maishandi vataure boyfriend yawo vese neboyfriend yawo waende ikoko kuri kutaurwa. Vana vakembo hamene imimi wanombopinda mumapariamenti kana varipo ngaambobvunzwa yemo wacho. Naye atisosuppose ngasitoro paposition iyo kana achisapota zvinhu zvisina nebasa rese kana mwana wako ari kudaro. Then koita maofficials ekucustoms vese chigenga chachona chese ngavadzingwe, neiwo kucustoms ngavaonekwewo vari kubvumidza chinhu chikupinda chigenga akaichiwana mukuone chicheini vese nokucustoms wachona futi ngavaonekwewo abatwa chete vese. Pakangoonekwa kana papinda konze yapinda sei yapinda, munhu wese angori nechekuita ichocho. Ngatiite action zverehab zvisiyane zvokuti vanhu vanonorepa, but kunenge kutonawo vanhu still vakutotanga kuita sei vakutanga kutengeserwa, because hatisi kutageta the root cause. Saka ndiyo submission yanguyo, ngatiite action vanhu ngavasu
wazvita ako Pella, and I think we need to take note of what you have just said. Maybe let me also say, for those who have spoken, and who no longer have anything to submit, if they can kindly drop down, because I've got a number of people who are yearning to give their submissions. You can as well come back later so that we can go ahead. Professor Feresu, I will give you your time. And as you also give your submission, I would want to inquire from you to say.
Now, because you said Padar, so I'd already prepared by thinking.
Oh,
so
okay, okay.
Then now, then
no,
I can
no.
come bring other people.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, Padare, you can go ahead. But let me also say this thing to say. Phela pa angataura pa ndangosumudza mike yangu ndobva akutonyarara akadi akanditeerera uyu ndaba ndikangosumudzawo mike yangu ndobva akunditeerera. So in the event yekuti ndiri kuona kuti waita matauriro wanenge wataura wochimbomira, unofanira kuva uri unomira. Handiwanzoda uri kuona nyaya dzekuti tinobva tatoita makwikwi ekutaurira tite sipalama. So we just want to have the conversation flow. Go ahead, Padare, and then we'll go to Professor Feresu with your 2 minutes.
Please tell me when the minute goes so you can warn me. So like you're saying, 1 minute you have left so that I can know. Because some of us, we go into some spiritual realm of talking. I acknowledge that. Many thanks. I will teach myself to talk less. Anyway, the issue here, which we are hearing now, is about finding solutions. Some want a political solution where they can actually remove the government, which is your right. Actually register to vote if you think that is your line, and vote for the government that you think is going to bring that change. For those that really want Fantin to be arrested, you have several choices. You can do a petition to the parliament. You can speak to your MPs. You can actually start a court case against this and put funds together so that you can actually then take an action as an active citizen, because you are saying you've got the evidence. There was a gentleman who says he knows the evidence that is being provided of Comrade Kemba Mahadi. Again, this is your position. We are here to help, even as a community, to raise those funds if that is true to what you're trying to fight, so that we can actually have a progressive comprehension. Because people want a political solution. Some want Fantin arrested. Some want Comrade Mahadi to be arrested. But here is a thing for me. A whole country called the United States of America found itself in Afghanistan, bombing, and what they did, they showed the whole world burning poppy fields, magnitudes of poppy field. But what happened when they were doing that? We saw that the price of anesthesia and medication, pills, cocodamol, morphine, and everything really shoot up, because there was no supply.
So apologies, Padare. I would want to quickly inquire from you to say what has the events unfolding in America to do with the issues of drugs in Zimbabwe?
I'm giving you, because what I'm giving you is experience shared is experience gained. Knowledge shared is powering each other. If we are going to come here and just waste our time with emotions and not find solutions, we'll just go back to zero. So an experience shared by someone, if you've seen something, someone has seen something that Kemba Mohadi has done something, they have shared their experience. I am also partaking in their experience, saying, my brother, you saw something, let's act on it. Right? So this is that's how we empower each other. So I'm empowering you with something that you never saw, because probably you've never been there. You never witnessed it. I witnessed it. But what is happening right now? America has got the highest drug use in the world. It's got the highest budget for its mental health people who use drug and substance misuse. In our country, I have come here and I've said we have a problem. The problem needs addressing, isn't it? We are coming up with solutions to where we are. For me, when it comes to mental health, rehabilitation, and so forth, there is a diaspora that is experienced something that they've not experienced at home. We are spiritual people. We are a Christian fellowship people. Sometimes when these issues come into our homes, some want to vanoenda nawo kunganga, some want to vanoenda kumapostori kuti mwana anamatiriwe, but you know that they are using substance misuse. So how do we encompass that? There are people now who have been in the health sectors within the institutions that they are working in diaspora. This is an opportunity for us to galvanize that knowledge and expert knowledge and harness it and take it back home. And there's nothing wrong with that because many countries do that. Perhaps maybe it's another solution because we are talking about solutions, isn't it? We're talking about solutions. So this is an opportunity. And I know of friends who have gone home to set up mental health institutions, although it's private.
Who's gonna pay for that knowledge, Mof?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. I am getting everywhere across the world.
Sorry. I'm not too sure. Actually, you have elapsed your time. If you want to come back, you can come back. Padre, thank you. Thank you. I thought I indicated to you that I unmuted myself. Yes, it's okay, but I can always give you the second chance. Let me go to Professor Feresu. She has to come with in 2 minutes, and then we go to our first time speakers.
Thank you very much. And again, I wish we do not make it political. This is a real issue across the world and much a problem in Zimbabwe as of now. And so we need to find solutions. If it becomes a government bashing show, for me, it becomes difficult. I'm interested in finding solutions that are targeted to the population and how we can resolve that. Also, when we give accounts of Muhadi child, what do we have proof? Let's not gaslight and talk about people without proof. Fund on what? Do you have proof? If you have proof, you can go to court, report them. Let's see what happens. I'm interested in this problem being stopped and helping our people in Zimbabwe for real. And I said I'm here to hear the issues so I can put it in my proposal. And I also heard Padare talking about guys in diaspora coming up with solutions. I remember Olinda once went to Zimbabwe and was talking about those kinds of things. Let's do that. Let's focus on solutions. Let's stop bashing people. Let's start thinking about how we can help other people. And it can be your child, it can be your brother, it can be your sister. So how can we, because we know that even in the UK, for example, there was one video, they were cooking cocaine in one of the houses in the UK, and there were Zimbabweans. So this problem is big and is real. Let's stop finger pointing. Let's focus on what can we do to resolve the problem. Thank you very much. I'll go down and I'll do a lot of listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please, host, can I rebut because
Okay, but let me also you are going to rebut in a minute and a half, please, because really we have got so much overwhelming. I also wanted to say to Professor, unfortunately, the government will always be part of the equation. The reason being, there's nothing that we can do. To remember, you were talking about issues to do with proof, or to do with evidence, to do with going to report to the police, to do with getting to our judiciary and so on and so on. Unfortunately, these institutions that we have talked about, they are the ones. Some of them could also be complicity in what's happening. And when you hear Ndabazesgo, when you hear Dr. Maifa talking about issues to do with saying let's overhaul the whole system and restart, and talking about this thing of saying when people are going to have an electoral process, let's do it wisely so that this whole system has got to go. But Magneto, I'm going to give you 1.5 minutes and then I will go to Dr. Maifa.
All right. Thank you. Anyway, Professor Feresu, you are saying let's not be political. Unfortunately, you are saying one thing. The things you are saying we are not supposed to be political is exactly what you are saying, what you are doing. Because by saying let's not be political, murukuda kuprotecta vanhu vari mugovernment, my politicians who are doing wrong. We cannot find a solution for as long as we are protecting those who are doing wrong. You said we need evidence. I think I gave you evidence. And like Warren Party is pa number 127th Crescent, that house is owned in Mkazi Anonzi Shandi. She's a drug dealer. I don't know how much evidence you want. ndakatombotenga brongo ipapo ndaita cough syrup. That's how I came to know about that house. It's number one evidence. Two, Bedbridge is a very small town here in South Africa. You don't need, the moment you land paBedbridge border post, kunzava vanhu vanochinja mari vaya kuti nditaridze mababa pemwana wake mbomahadi kana kuti munhu anopedula fodya muno, the biggest drug lord muno Bedbridge ndiani anokuzwa kuti mwana wake mbomahadi. That's evidence enough. I don't know kuti mada evidence ipi. Kana muchida come to my inbox, we make an arrangement tosangana paBedbridge toenda kumba kumwana wake mbomahadi munoona.
I just want to say thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Magneto, and I will again repeat that for those who have just submitted and they would want to come down, we have got people who would want also to speak. Dr. Maifa, what's your take on the past three submissions? And please let's give a chance to Tapiwa, has been here for some time.
Yes, and Mkoma Champion was here. He dropped his back. He was here much earlier than Tapiwa. Thank you very much, everyone, for your submissions. It really boggles my mind whenever we want to find solutions for our beloved Zimbabwe. You find a whole lot of an academic, a whole lot of an adult talking about. Mkoma Denford, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay. Please mute your phones, everyone else. We were quiet when you were talking. So I'm like a whole lot of an adult, a whole lot of an academic always goes to talk about America.
I do not like to be kutupa platform, please. Thank you.
Tisi kutuka, kutaura chokwadi. I'm also an academic, but I need to do things right. Give me the chance. I never interfered when you were talking. Right. America is not the standard for the world for us to be copying what happens in America. So let's not go to say, but America zviriko, but America zviriko. It defeats the purpose. We are here to find solutions for Zimbabwe. Kana America iri kuitira hayo tsvina mupoto mayo makuitawo nokuzimbabwe nokuti America iri kuzviita here. Let's not find such examples, please. Thank you, Mkoma Denford.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It's important that we know that. To Mkoma Champion, apologies, I didn't notice that you came. You see, I've got overwhelming people this side here. But Mkoma Champion, I'll give you your 2 minutes. Go ahead, and then we'll give Tapiwa the time
to mari kunosapota urai apa it is very big drugs vakapona ndechaiche kakudisa madrug peddlers grandmas madrug and vari vazhinji vacho they are close linked anopita you want to know politically, you guys are ready the perfect mechanism of trying to prolong
Mkoma Champion. Sorry. Hey, Dr. Maifa, can you hear Mkoma Champion properly? Yeah, it seems okay. I'll give you another chance to speak again.
Let me just be a bit there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Tapiwa, go ahead, after which you will give Mercy. Okay, we'll go to Jama. By the way, Tapiwa,
thank you.
Jama, and Mercy.
Thanks, sir. I think the problem of drugs anywhere in the world, whether it's America or Zimbabwe or Zambia, I think it needs a multi-agency solution. whereby the pointing of fingers to say somebody is not doing their job or this one is not doing their job, I think that's you are starting on the wrong footing, because what normally happens in a standard society is that a society feels challenged by a new phenomenon, right? Let's say there's AIDS, there's an epidemic. How does the welfare system within that society respond to something that is new, something that is basically they have not been dealing with in a normal day-to-day business, like okay, kurwariwa kuriko, vanhu vanorwara, vanhu vanopenga, vanhu vanodii. Of course, yes, that's normal. You can just go to the doctor and get help and this and that. It's not an epidemic. But if it becomes an epidemic whereby it's a sort of actually noticeable, like somebody has said, kuti anotoona mwana akamira for like 1 hour muzuva. That's not normal, and that's it needs intervention. But now the question is, how do you actually now trigger that system of intervention, and how do you actually properly, in a sober manner, without pointing a finger, without being angry, without trying to find out who is causing what. But the first point of call, in my opinion, is to actually understand the problem itself first. What is the problem? Yes, this is the problem. And when you look at it,
Tapiwa,
I'm making a submission. Can you allow me to express myself?
Unfortunately,
fine, yeah.
it seems you seem to be speaking some of the things that I think okay. According to me, I would want to think that because if you say you first have to understand whether there is a problem. Of course, I don't think there's no one here who doesn't know that we've got a problem.
No, I know. That's not what I said. Actually, I didn't say that. I said analyze the problem. Then you can actually, yes.
We have made that analysis. We have made that analysis.
No, not you. All I'm saying, sir, I said multi-agencies. When I started my discussion, I said my contribution, I said multi-agency. Multi-agency means, first and foremost, the family. Second, Ministry of Health. Third, the police. Fourth, the political leadership within communities. For example, if I come from Kwazana myself, and there's a problem in Kwazana, the chief government officer or the chief representative of the people of Kwazana, when something invades Kwazana, is our MP, for example, or even our ward chairman or a councillor. We raise a stink from different directions, right? One, mothers can just say, our children are suffering. The councillor. Tipuro nyaedu kunani, kuna MP. MP went to parliament. Taita problem kwangu ini na meno kuti iriko yo kwenye kunotona. But kwangu kuti yakamira so. Then the law making mechanism irimo mu Zimbabwe, which is our parliament, our assembly, and our senators, now raise a political stink to say, oh, no, somebody somewhere is not doing their job. Mapurisa ataurwa wokusanintel and that thing is the only way you can deal with them is to actually go that political process. That is the most powerful process that you instigate. Now, that process needs support. It needs support from multi-agencies. By multi-agencies, I'm talking about people like me, for example. I grew up, I work and live in societies very exposed. Nditori addicts. And also garana chimorosana and panapa.
Okay,
So I'm concluding. What I'm saying is this. Ndringoti chikokuti solution ingodiwa.
I think what we need to do, let's go to Jama and then Masi, then we'll see who is going to come next. Thank you very much.
Thank you for affording me this opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Greetings to everyone. I think this issue of drugs, people tend to focus much on the social effects that exist as a result of these drugs that are in our society. But basically, I think this is a political problem because the lawlessness in our country, it is the one that accommodates probably the provision and the use of these drugs in our communities. So if we solve our politics, we'll be able to then come up with various strategies as to how we can then rehabilitate those who would have been affected by those drugs in the first place. So this problem is very political, and if we want to fix the issue of drugs, we'll start from politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being so precise. I would want to believe if people would contribute the way Jama has just done, then it will help us to actually make sure that everybody will speak. But Masi, go ahead.
Thanks, Demford. I think I've laughed myself too much till I forgot the points I wanted to make. So maybe that's going to make me be short. It's so unfortunate. Yeah, to me, it's scary.
Is she speaking?
I'm speaking, Pastor. Can someone tell Pastor to drop and come back? Demford.
Pastor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And so I think you have a good problem of hearing the other people who are speaking. You can drop out and then come back. I will readmit you to being a speaker.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. For me, it's very shocking. And it's shocking because I can see it's done deliberately. Anyone who says, let's not make it political, a person who actually says, let's not make a drug issue political, let's not talk about politics, is suspect. Very suspicious to me. Because to deal with drugs, what are you going to need to tackle it? What exactly are you going to need? You're going to need to finance the activities that must be done in order to what? To prevent it happening, to deal with it as it happens, to create deterrence for those who are attempting to continue the activities that perpetuate it. Then you're also going to have to treat the ones that have been affected by the drugs. How are you going to do that if we are not talking about it politically? How are the funds going to be dispersed to deal with these activities? What programs are going to be enforceable if there's no policy or legislation, if we are not dealing with it? We are not talking about it politically. Who is going to make sure that it is done if we are not dealing with? Who's going to allocate? Who is responsible for that at an institutional level? Who's going to do that? Okay, who's going to be dealing with the programs that need to be done on a community level? Okay, on a provincial level. So this deliberate trying to coerce people to not talk about it politically is suspicious. Why would you say let's not talk about it politically when you know that it would need a lot of political activity to push it forward? Why would you say let's not talk about it politically? How are you hoping to get it done? Okay, the fact that we are gathered here and we are supposing what is the cause, we are still thinking amongst ourselves, how must it be dealt with? Who must deal with it? Shows that there is no government plan to deal with it. Because if it existed, it will spell out the pathways that Tapiwa was trying dismally to put into a pathway to do. A government policy would have set out what is the plan, for what issue, created timelines for when, started to create a vision for what it predicts must happen by when, by who. So since that doesn't exist and we are here, we are all of us just using our own thoughts, it shows that there has not been any government action that has created any pathway. So why can't we speak about it politically? How will it be dealt with? How will those policies be designed? Who will enforce them? Who will instruct the police? Right now, you saw the police on the road doing an activity. Who asked them to do it? Who's going to sponsor them? You don't want it to be spoken about politically. So it is very bizarre why every answer starts with, let's not talk about it politically. Can you please explain for us what would happen if we spoke about it politically? How does it compromise what we are hoping to achieve, talking about it politically? How does it put back the things that you have also suggested if we spoke about? Can you tell us how talking about it politically disrupts fixing the problem? Because you've presented it as if we do speak about it politically, then forget it. And why are you always passing the buck from the citizen must do this reporting, this catching, this all investigation? What do you suppose the job of the police is? What do you actually suppose the job of local authorities is? What do you actually suppose that the government's job is? Because you have got so many roles and responsibilities for a citizen to do. Now we are arresting people. We are doing our own investigations and finding out truths before we speak about people. Can you explain to us why you have a problem with government agencies doing what they are paid to do? Why you also have a problem with politics being mentioned? Because you keep advising us not to touch these things. If we touch them, what would happen? Because maybe we don't, maybe you know something we don't. If we touch them, they'll get upset. If we touch them, what will they do? They'll ignore us and we will all die. If we talk about them, gee, what will happen? At what point are we allowed to talk about it politically? When will you open that window for it to be spoken about politically? Muti would say, is it between the 1st of December and 7th of December, or during bank holidays? Because everything, your submissions start with, let's not talk about it politically. Murukurebe, we are confused as citizens. You're asking us to be arresting people, to be investigating people. Which powers have you given us? Under what authority? With what budgets are we going to do that? With what expertise are you now? Are you calling for vigilantes? Now we should go on the street. Until we are reporting to the police by saying this, their job is to go out and investigate, come back and say, no, these allegations that you are saying are not true. What do you think the police's job is? The videos that are being mentioned, they are online. The police are also online. They have no eyes to see. Why haven't they investigated? Why are you not asking yourself that with this evidence that is littered, or at least pointing a finger to something, why has the police not done any action? Does it not bother you that for the image of the country, our own president is quite okay to be standing, inviting a criminal into his own house for the safety of the nation? Does that make sense? It's not bothered you. That he makes no statement. Or even investigate and then tell us that, no, that was a mistake. It's just a spoof. He was carrying flour. It's okay. And we've told him not to play like that. It doesn't bother you. But you advise us. Let's not speak it. Under what authority? This is when titles become dangerous to be used publicly. Where opinions that you share, that I'm sorry, I'm going to be rude, Denford, because I'll drop afterwards. Theories from the annals that are made to sound better because a title is attached to the orifice that said it, that is when it becomes problematic. There's no way you can ask for policy.
Zvichiri zvamadrugs
It's
here kana
disgusting.
zvazvo kubhasha
No,
vanhu.
listen,
Iwe
no one has
masizimbabwe.
mentioned
Aiwa.
you. If you insert yourself, I
Aiwa,
can name you.
zvirapa.
If you insert yourself, I will name you. So you can either you can either sit and pretend that it is not you.
Sorry. Let's engage ourselves. Mercy, we would want to have a decorum, and we would want to engage in a peaceful way. Thank you very much for the submission. But Mercy, you can wind down now so that we can go to the next speaker. Thank you.
The reason I'm saying that there is a dishonesty when we are being advised not to do something by people who will then come back later and tell us that government activity that allowed them to hold positions to deal with certain actions in Zimbabwe give them the advantage of experience. Next, we'll be told, no, I once worked at this hospital under this ministry. When it suits the profession, when it suits the job, when it suits the payment, it is okay for government to be consulted or talked about. But when the Zimbabwean citizen wants to talk about what the government's responsibility is, you are told not to speak about it politically. Ipapo, that's when I want an explanation. What does it mean? This is a national issue. It may not be in every area in Zimbabwe. There are areas where it has become a hotspot than others. But the impact of it is based on how our nation is progressing. So there is the effects, the causalities. Now we are going to have to get to the treatment and prevention. And someone says we must not speak about it politically. When it is politics that sets the agenda, maintains it, funds it, evaluates it for its effectiveness, and someone says, let's not speak about it. Ipapo,
Right.
please repeat that question to the people. It was Padare and Prof. Feresu. I need an answer for this avoidance of politics in their submission.
Yes, thank you very much, Mercy. You can still come back. We don't have any problems. And I think Professor has just went down and she came up. She's gonna answer on that. We would want to hear from her. But I think we have got Buster who had problems with his network. Bosalana, I see you. Then Dobbs, after which we go to move. Let's be precise in our submissions. Then we can all speak. Eh?
Yeah, I won't be long because my sister was just spoken. Well done, my sister, spot on. That's exactly what I wanted to touch on. Isn't it weird that we've got people who come on space and separate what is happening in Zimbabwe with the government? How do you do that? Because when this government claimed to have won the election, they know the mandate. They know the roles of the government. It's unfortunate that it's happening in our country. We never thought it's going to happen in our country. I come from ghetto, where I can witness the impact, and you can shed tears when you see Zafana Gastika, and it's unfortunate that it has happened that way. And these countries, they want to compare with the big countries in Latin America. They've got resources. They allocate resources. Then they're struggling as well to fight this drug issue. But my question now is, probably if someone among you people got the answer to this, I would love to hear the answer. Why is it happening at this fast rate? We never had this 20 years Mshango Pinda. And who is? Because you cannot tell me there are no key players, because these drugs, they've got a distribution, they've got a line point A to the last user. There are some key players in between. And if you go in the communities, they will tell you some drugs. I mean, some of you guys have mentioned few individuals, but I don't want to touch those small fishes. But we're talking about the big fishes. Because surely this issue has been going for quite a long time, and we never had a statement from our government. We never had an attempt. It's only today when there, I see videos circulating as if, the government, is a roadblock, like they are so much busy there, they are taking this issue serious. It goes way beyond that. There are some key players, and it's not a coincidence that is happening to my youth. There is an agenda behind it, but what I can say is probably I'll need to poke your mind, Kuti. Why is our government officials are not addressing the issue? And how can you separate what is happening? Because the government knows the rules. And why are they not speaking out against this? And why is it happening so much? Because so much happening under our things like gun crime, but I want to stick with the drugs because that's where, like I said, I come from ghetto, and it's unfortunate to these guys who are turning the blind eye. They think it could but they will come to understand if it happened in theirs. No one is safe on this one. But again, if we can try to save the few ones left, drugs, that would be helpful. And ladies and gentlemen, let's make noise until this issue and until the government does what needs to be done by the government. We don't want people to come here, compare themselves in America, being selective. If you want to compare yourself in America, compare about everything. We don't want to say, it doesn't make it right. So in short, let's make noise until we are not happy about this, because ignoring this, I'm telling you, pasichaitika kune mwana wako ndopa uchaona kuti mawan, because when it happens, it might be not a point of return. Anokwanisa kutsvatsotsvadzoka. And it's unfortunate to Zaitika. This is the last thing we would wanted. Maybe this is the new dispensation we've been promised. I don't know, but I worry so much. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Tisataenda kuna Bostalani, atadini I had missed you out, but never papa, then I'll come to you. Pastor urutaura chokwadi nenyaya yekutaura namasi kuti sometimes there are moments when we say to ourselves, why would you want to depoliticize things that are actually political? Because as we speak about issues to do with vanhu vanoonekwa kuti ndo, now somebody was telling me about issue yekuti I think it's you, Professor, who was talking about issue evidence and so on and so on. These things are being said. Let's suppose that it is Nelson Chamisa's son or Nelson Chamisa's relative who is being accused of having perpetrated violence in Kwazana or something like that, and is in social media. Wouldn't you think that the police will actually take it as something, as evidence that can incriminate him, and then we've got problems even vanenge vasina kupara mhosva, vanenge vangungana mudzimba dzavo vachita zvavanoita, and then they are being arrested, and vanhu vanototsvaka kuti vanoona se-evidence yacho vozovaregedza. But here we've got people who are being said, and vanoonekwa nemavideos zvichiitika, and these things are being swept under the carpet. But this is something that you are going to be rebutting when I give you a chance. Let's give Salan Jobs and then move, after which we'll go to Tadini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, host and co-host, all protocols observed, and everybody on the space. I'm so glad we're talking about this very crucial issue, because it is a national problem. Drug abuse and use is something that we have seen happening to our youth, especially. And when I was listening, I was quite astonished to hear people say we cannot politicize this. It's interesting they say that, because we know that the drug dealers are ZANU-PF most of the time. We know that there's a manner in which these drug traffickers or drug dealers are also paying police for their silence, or for them to actually assist them in selling of those drugs. We know that government officials might also be involved. So there's a whole issue of different players that are partaking in this whole drug issue, especially when it comes to drug trafficking. And it is highly we know without a shadow of a doubt that definitely it will be members of the ruling party that partake with that. I'm not saying other political players don't have do anything to do with it, but from what we've seen, especially when you hear them mention it, it's always those of ZANU-PF who say, let's not politicize it. And the funny thing as well is when they start to mention examples about America, why is it America gets mentioned when they want to make excuses or sell their propaganda? But when you see opposition leaders go to America or, even greet or engage with Americans, they say they're sellouts. It's quite hypocritical, to be honest, and they need to really rethink their strategies, kuchikoro chawe chiche ideology, because it's not working. Now, going to my contribution, you see, whilst Zimbabwe seeks a solution to this drug use amongst our people, right? The Zimbabwean drug laws are not helping. How are they not helping? The current drug laws, especially the Dangerous Drugs Act, Chapter 15, and I think the other one is the Criminal Code, Chapter 9, have been developed mainly to counter drug trafficking and diversion of controlled drugs. However, the things is they need to reform. Those laws need to be reformed drastically so that it enables people who use and inject drugs to seek, obviously, the help and services that they require without fear of criminalization. This cannot be done by the government. The government has failed drastically. Why am I saying this? If you look at the population of youth that use drugs, what happens with those who are drug dealers, they keep the youth in a place of where they're out of touch with reality. You see, instead of the youth developing and flourishing, having jobs, what drugs do is they alter their way of thinking. The things that they see as important. Instead of the youth's visual wanting jobs, they'd rather want drugs. And that also allows the current ruling government to be in power because the youth are not in a position to think for themselves, to think beyond that addiction that they have. So there's a bigger picture here where you see that this is where ZANU-PF wants our youth to be. If they wanted the youth to prosper, they would have services that help them to the services that help our youth to control their use or to even stop using drugs at all. But we don't see that happening. So all of it comes back to the point of why does ZANU-PF do anything? Or why does ZANU-PF do nothing? Is more like the question. They do nothing because it benefits them. It benefits their system of government. It benefits ensuring that they stay in power. The more youth are informed, healthy, thinking clearly, that means the end to ZANU-PF. That means youth wanting a better future, youth wanting jobs. That means all these things. And that is the biggest problem when it comes to ZANU-PF. Let's also not forget that it's the biggest money-making machinery. Drugs, even if you look at drug trafficking, it causes prostitution and all these other things that even human trafficking at times, there are drugs that are used so that, those who are human trafficked are not in a position to fight back, or that they're put in a place where they become victims and unable to free themselves. So all these things is quite dangerous, really. And it's so important that we continue to talk about this issue. Another thing we have to remember for those who are coming here and saying, oh, it's not a government problem or it's not let's not politicize it. That's quite funny. Because we look at the crimes rate, we look at the death rates, we look at the prostitution, all these levels, they are high. They are, you see the numbers of things of thefts and things. Many of those are attributed to drug users. So if we were to make sure that all these things are dealt with, we would be dealing with a bigger problem in our own society. And I truly hope that when people come here, you forget your politic jacket or put it on the side. Think about this could be your child. This could be you. You know what I mean? The moment you start to think like that and come away from your political opinions, I think we'll have better discussions and find solutions that will better assist us in the long run. Thank you so much, then, for that land there.
Thank you very much, Salani. And as you were speaking, I was just thinking to myself to say, when people are actually defending some of the things that anyone cannot defend, you start really to wonder. When I was looking into some of the drugs that are being peddled in Zimbabwe, I looked at one of it being crystal meth. they actually indicated that some of the effects that comes out of the consumption of such a drug is the damage of the brain cells. And just imagine what are the implications of a human brains being damaged. Unfortunately, the majority of the people who are consuming these drugs are our youth. Remember, I was talking about issues to do with young children, children as young as 9 years of age, and they start abusing these drugs at a tender age, going to university and so on and so on. It means their brains are going to be damaged. So, and looking at the trend at which the drugs are being abused in Zimbabwe, the majority of our young children are abusing this thing. Could it be a deliberate move by the government to say, let it go like this, and ultimately in the long run, our youth are going to be so much damaged to an extent that maybe the status quo will remain? This is just about my assumptive ethos to say it could be that the greatest chunk of the electoral base is the youth, and once they get affected by this, the abuse of these drugs, then definitely there's nothing that is going to be happening. The status quo will remain. But thank you very much, Salani. Before I go to Mkoma Dobsi, I think Dr. Maifa has got something to say. Go ahead, Dr. Maifa. Okay. Dr. Maifa and Dona's very busy. Mkoma Dobsi, go ahead, Mof, and then Tadini will go.
Sorry, I was failing to unmute. I want to thank Salani and Masi for their submissions. And here we have a problem, and it's a political problem. Let's not be fooled, or let's not fool ourselves. So let's tackle the problem head on. And please, as we give our submissions, let's always focus on the way forward. How can we solve this problem? And I want even for us to look at our individuals selves to say, what can I do as an individual to help? Either you help your own family members who are already addicted, or in your community. Thank you, Mkoma Denford.
Thank you very much. Mkoma Dobsi, you can go ahead.
Many thanks, host and co-host. I do appreciate whatever you've been submitted, but any problem, we can't then, if it is a national problem, we can't exclude the government because it's there to be part and parcel of the solution. So those who say don't involve the government, I don't know their agenda, because even some of us are even part of that government. But we want solutions. That is the most important thing. So the biggest thing here, we have to identify where we are failing, to say we have our party being involved, ZANU-PF being involved in drug trafficking. And this would also affect other countries because they are doing it right at the border, the Bridge border post. And it's the vice secretary of ZANU-PF. From the vice secretary of ZANU-PF, the second most important person in ZANU-PF is trafficking cigarettes and drugs around the country, and even going beyond our borders. It's a big problem which we have to identify, to say we are not building a better relationship even with our neighbors. So this issue needs to be really tackled. We have our own police force. Instead, when we identify to say these are the suspects, we are accusing these ones, we give them video evidence. They go on the streets and just set roadblocks and start search. Just do it cosmetic. They don't want to solve the problem. They're even protecting those ones who are peddling the drugs and searching ordinary citizens who are just going around with their own business and try to frustrate them so that they start complaining about those roadblocks in order to protect the drug peddlers. That is where I see the problem. For those who are saying, do you have any evidence? We have done a lot to collect those evidence. If we are coming with names and addresses, and at times video evidence to say these are the suspects, we have spent time and fortune to do that. Police have to act because we have supplied them what we can supply them. We don't have arresting powers for drugs. So we need to understand to say some of us, we are not politicking. We need solution for those things to be solved. So the issue here we need to continue raising the issue of drugs. We understand it's now being discussed in parliament and so forth. And we understand the way how the police is doing to say they don't want really to arrest those ones because they are enjoying bribe money from them or whatever they are going. The actual government don't want it because it's part and parcel. And even the ZANU-PF, they have got syndicates running those drugs. We had even independent member of parliament, Temba Mliswa, 2 months ago, telling them to say, we are aware of your syndicate, which is smuggling and distributing drugs in Norton. They did not challenge him to say, we are not doing that, because they know that such syndicates exist. So it now needs our president really to really look into it and direct it to so all those syndicates must be destroyed. If they can't do it, we are only left with one solution at the moment to say we have to try by all means to get rid of this government, which we know that is very difficult because it's a military government, and probably the military might be involved in it, since the CIO and the police have already we have already brought evidence to say they are really into it. They are collecting. At the end of every day, they are collecting something. We don't know whether they are the ones who are supplying them or they are just collecting the drug money. So solution for this is probably to keep on having this recorded space, sending them to wherever it is necessary for it to be discussed, even at stage level, to say we have another problem which is coming, which is growing in Zimbabwe. Thanks a lot, everybody. Back to you, host.
Thank you very much, Chief. Mof, you can go ahead. Okay, let's go to
Hey guys,
Tabini.
how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah, it's like I don't know why my Zimbabwean decided kutenderera. Iyi nyaya yemalines yakuti amukutaura, to be quite honest, vamwe takatombofamba naye and tinyatsokutoziva kana kuti munhu akambotora substance 1 week or 2 weeks 3 weeks ago. Tinyatsokuona kuti awe akambotora and masigns acho anenge aripo. But then kune vanhu vanenge vachitaura evidence. Ndotakana kukudza kuti tarisai vanhu 3 vari kumusoro kubva pana ED koya wamunoti Guvel koya uyu mwamukutaura uyu. Munhu wese anozoti akafamba neline rorera, there's no way unotoziva kuti uyu anotora. Haufanirwi kuona munhu achitora, but character yemunhu neappearance yemunhu inokuratidza kuti uyu malines aya anofamba nawo. So chingodiwa ingori hurumende itsva. And I'm sorry kana maybe vanofanira kundinzwisa kuti zongwa ndofunga kuti dai Gushingo wanga wachiripo nometa nokushata kanga wakaita, but Gushingo munhu anga angori principled, haana mbura aita zvinhu zvinosemesa kudai sezvizvizvi. Our 3 varipo pamusoro vagaizika, nhasi atingindi 4. 3 varipo pamusoro ivava, these are drug users, and you cannot have a president as a drug user, a vice president as a drug user, and another second president as a drug user. Then where's the commissioner, Matanga, is an alcoholic. Zvatofanana zvakadai so. So where are you going as a country? We are right in the deep end. Yokuti takapemberera n'anga dzinobata mai mazamu. We are in deep shit. Note hakuna kunonzi kunofamba madrugs amukutaura yaya. Even kana white powder kana everything. Zvekuti hurumende inenge isingazive, there's nothing hazviite. Hurumende inenge ichiziva. Zvakapa pokati medwa kuti sister tikapa example yekuti kana withdraw kana £1,000,000 in a bank, mari iyo indozikanwa kuti ifambiswa so, ndosaka vatosiya wanyora apa kuti uidii, wadatoitrace usati yafamba sei. Saka nyaya dzemadrugs idzi hurumende inotariswa kuziva ari kutengesa, wacho kana vanhu vakafana nana mukati chiko kampana kanenge kanopenga kaka passion java koya umwe anombobuda chika zvinenge zvekupenga anotamba na passion java muti anoita dj vanhu kuti maybe can they be close to a sitting president ini kana vamugaba tinambva ndavaona vachiita vanhu vakadaro padhuze nomeita munhu anga akashata. Do you think passion java isibira pana mugabe on what grounds? Vesawa namakandiwa vesawa varimo mudhiriri zviri pachena zviri vanotoziva zvipo paso but isusu manje mazimbabwe tikazvisekerera kune vamwe vamwe vachidi vakuda evidence ava unogona kugara nemunhu the whole of 25 or 60 years muchigara mese kana semukadzi nemurume kana semwana nemukomana munhu iye achirwa madrugs but haumbofa wakamubata achirwa madrugs but unhu hwake hunongokurakidza kuti munhu pane zvaari kuita. Ndine muzukuru wangu wekuti ukamufondera nhasi ukamuudza kuti manheru zviri sei dzongo hakudaira anozokudayira mangwana anenge akasitika madrugs. Saka vesana padaro vakutaura zvinonzi haisi politics tasvika kumagumo wanoendai kunovhota rejisai kuvhota noti mukaregerera imbwa idzidzidzi vana venyu ndo vanoparara ende havachambova nezvezvi kana chimwe chembere chaiye chaedza vari mumakuru vakurova futi madrugs achino. Saka as a country munoenda kupi iwe monditaurira kuti waacquire knowledge iko kune madrugs enda kumusha kwachina unosevhisa and being paid what who's gonna pay for my services ndobhadhirwa maRTG aya hazvishande guys and I'm sorry and Zimbabwe wachikarai kuenda this year 2023 zvikangoramba this year 2023 zvikanzi zvaramba mark my words hapasina zvenyika pano ende vamwe vanhu seche tichatokanganwa kunyatsotokanganwa kutoti vachauya kumusheko kuchimira vachigara ikoko isu tochigarawo kunoko then tokata communication zvikaramba this year zvaramba but we cannot lead those guys especially them three to be our leaders guys. Are you not ashamed ED ndiye president wako and you can say maybe munhu anotora madrugs kana munhu aimbotora madrugs you can tell tore mumwe munhu ane makore ED kana 83 munhu asina mvura abata kana any substance momisapo motora mumwe munhu akabata ED wacho momisapo dzinouraya manjuka zoti uyu kuenda akaparira kudai so even ane mari chiwenga ane mari but kase kuparira kwakaita kwakwe so drug user ende kona nyika yagara namadrug user it's more like a warlord. Tasvika kumaguma it's very sorry sometimes ndoanza kuda ngojunga zvingo straight anenge asingazvifarire azvifarira but chekuita hapana. Guys, this no sort of battle young but kuti batini yaro wanaso itime muzvibati. Thank you.
Maita mukoma mo takatotsamwa tesa kumanawe kuna wachafara chaizvo nyaya yekuti Everton ameno zvaita. Okay, thank you very much. We go ahead. Mukoma Tadini, you are going to be next and ndoda kuti ndisati auya kwamuri I just wanted to inquire from you to say is it by coincidence that our religious groups, our non-governmental organizations, civic organizations, they've become so passive? If they are talking about issues of drug abuse, the supplies and how they are moving around into the country, they don't speak in numerous occasions. They don't speak the source of the problem. They just want to. At one moment, I when I was preparing for this topic, I had to approach a number of people from civic organizations, even from the religious groups, and they asked me to. They actually agreed initially, and they asked me to formalize my topic and bring it to them. The moment they saw that topic at the top there, said, no. I think one of them said he was committed. The other one said, no, we are almost in the electioneering a period, and then it's going to be very difficult. What do you really think is going to be happening in our country where people people cannot speak up their mind, especially when they see that the government is actually going offside. Go ahead, Tadin.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Thank you very much, Mkoma Dinford. I hope I am loud and clear.
Very clear. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Tadin.
so I think the reason why there are a lot of people who are talking about the drug problem, but they're also not pointing out the source. And the reason why they're not pointing out the source, I think people have exhausted. It's because there are people who supposedly are untouchables that are also involved in the drug ring. You see, and those untouchables have made it something that's very frightening, even for police to come in and actually do their job. So you talk about civil groups that do not even have the same amount of power or apparatus, such as the state in terms of the police. Then they will definitely shy away, and it will also interfere with the good that they might be trying to do. So they will not say the absolute truth, maybe because it will have them stopped from practicing. So they would not point out. They will just acknowledge that there is a problem, then continue to try and fight it. But they are not going to say adiningi watukutoziya kuti are involved. And if you look at what has been happening, you can already see kuti pane a lot of money laundering gigs that have come up. I mean, munhu anotengesa a glass shoe ikuoneka kuti yakasosonwa zvakadhakwa, it's $700, and ari kuita masales anopfuura kana kuti 50 a day. Who's buying a glass shoe, a plastic, $700? Right? So that's already speaking to these issues, the money laundering zichiitika munyika, kuti mariyo yemadrugs ndo iri kugezwa in some of these institutions, in some of these phony companies that are coming up. So silencing iri pakutya, kuti one, tinomiswa from operation, coming in of the PVO bill, two, tinobva tatotadza kuita the little good yatiri kuita kuseva vanhu, tikada kunyatsotaura kuti who is responsible for what is happening. And you can't step away from the politics. I think people were right. Marseille's pointed out how this is political. It's political. Even the action that is being taken by police now, this problem has been around for over 3 years. It has been rising. I would want to say actually 4 years. It has been going on its peak ever since. Unfortunately, let's say coincided with the new dispensation. I don't know if it's a coincidence. Okay, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but it coincided with the new dispensation, and so we also have to investigate that. But one thing very political is what the police are doing. They haven't been doing anything active in the past 3 years. They only want to do something that's active 5 months away from an election. So this is actually a campaign strategy. And this should speak to the opponents of the current government. Could they also supposed to speak on issues of how they're going to deal with this drug problem that we now have to deal with? What are their policies? Because if they don't, someone are going to freeborn. Ari kunyepedzera kunga ane basa rakuita, yet tiri kuziva kuti for the past 3 years hapana chaangachita. All of a sudden taakuona imbwa dzakasimba simba, tasikatombosiva kuti K9 unit ine imbwa dzinoonekera kudaro. Handiti that on its own is the politics. So everyone has to jump in. The opposition that's coming, let them speak to what they're going to really do and let the people actually buy into it. After that, definitely there has to be a government change. You can't talk kuti directed in a government. If my brother spoke more for the government can say change one, that's true. But we'll then have to create my other centers of power, which is my organized societies, whereby we would have to fight the drug problem ourselves. Like right now, while you're waiting for the election, I think it is okay for people to fight the drugs within their own communities. Munoziya kuti ningi ndi ari kutengesa. Why are you ignoring that person? Why cannot you go kuna counselor when you if they are not involved? Oma groups evakadzi vasiri kuda. Munoziva zvinoitika kumusha pakanzi pane mukadzi ari kuhura. Vakadzi vese vemuraini vese vanoungana voenda kunotamba pamba pake vachidhensa vachiita sei kuti ngaabudiswe munomu vachiudza sabhuku dobs can speak attest to that. Panotamba vobva vataya mukadzi uyu hatichamudenga apfeke ngaende. Ukanzi uri muroi, that's the same thing that will happen. Right. So why are we not doing the same with drug peddlers? We did that with the murderer recently. Magaita citizens arrest. ngativasunge, ngativabate, tovabata neproof yacho if we can organize as men to do that, tovatakura kana kuti ne-evidence, toenda tonosiya mumaoko emapurisa, then we really can show kuti ari complicit ndeupi, and would have tried to do something that goes beyond speaking, create alternative powers of accountability, alternative centers of reaction, or alternative centers of power, and and then still go to election hoping for the best. Because I think, lastly, I would say anyone Arukuti, let's not talk about it really political. It's a disgrace to their profession, especially me on my professions out. It's a great disgrace. You can't do anything of that. You can't divorce this issue from government. You cannot. You can't divorce it from politics. Everyone has to speak to how they're going to resolve this problem. It's affecting future generations. It's affecting the current generations also. So everyone has to actually speak from a political sense. Then church, we're not doing enough. The religious leaders are not doing enough. They should be in front of it. Panama drugs up, kutengesa, tawabudisa. What is the government doing about it? Question it from that end. And that might even twist those government officials who are involved, could participate, even wasirkuda. Then lastly, I don't think with a conspiracy. People are talking about a conspiracy intentionally hating the youth. No, these guys sell to anyone. Conspiracy report, there are some people who are power hungry and who are money hungry and who will make money whichever way they want, whether they're stealing from COVID patients or they are taking your life by selling you drugs. You see, there's just a group that came in that's willing to do anything for them to become billionaires. It's not really targeted to the youth. It's unfortunate the youth are the ones that have suffered the plight more. But I don't think pane conspiracy actual targeting. Ingori vanhu vane greed, excessive. Vada kutora mari kuma-dumping site, vada kutora mari kumapiritsi e-COVID, vada kutora mari nekutengesa mbanje, vada kutora mari nekutengesa gold. They are addicted to money and becoming rich at whatever expense. I think that's how I would put it. And unfortunately, the youth in Dovaita suffer the brand of this whole thing. I hope ndakwanisa kuanswer question yenyu Mkoma Danford. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I think a number of us here would really agree that it is very difficult under the circumstance for an ordinary people, an organization, even an activist in on the ground in Zimbabwe to speak out the way that maybe some of us could be doing this. In particular, as you've just highlighted the issue of the PVO bill, which has just recently been signed. The government, it doesn't care whether all the NGO or civic groups that are in the country can be closed down as long as they retain their power. So they are so uncompromising, and that is the reason why some would not speak out against that. But unfortunately, we are doing that at the expense of the welfare and the livelihood of our children. As we are going to ending our space, like Dr. Mefa has just said, those who are going to be submitting, really let's concentrate on issues to do with it. How can we really sustainably do away with this project that the government is just letting go like this? Unfortunately, like we have just said, a number of the institutions in Zimbabwe have been captured by the state, and even if you would want to bring about suggested solutions to the problem, it is going to be very increasingly difficult for the ordinary citizens, for even political institutions that would want to do it. And that is the reason why we are having people actually opting to say, which I don't think will ramba. Things will come right as long as we do a sacrifice too. If you are close by, for those people who are around the Southern African Development Community, who are able to go and register when there's time, they should do that. Those who have got the resources should also mobilize resources for people to go and register. And then when the time comes for registering, for voting, people should ultimately do like what they would have promised. So as we go on, we can ask King Albert, and then we'll go to Mercy. I see, Basta, you've got something to say. We're going to come back to you. But King Albert, go ahead.
Thank you so much, former Denford. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to a few issues. You know, people, they have a weakness of blaming the victim. When you get raped, then they say, why didn't you lock your door? Why didn't you buy dogs? Why don't you have guards at your home? Why don't you do this? Why don't you have a gate? Why didn't you do this? This and that and that. I heard a full-grown man saying, we have to go back to the streets and look for the young children and educate them against the drugs. Yes, that's correct. But we are saying they are not the problem. We cannot blame them. We cannot blame the parents for not educating their parents. When we have a whole government which is failing just to regulate the borders, to say all these, you know what? The only drug that is found in Zimbabwe, naturally found in Zimbabwe, is marijuana. The other, all these other artificial drugs, cocaine, what, they are not originally from Zimbabwe. They are not originally made in Zimbabwe. Those like the ones they use glue and so forth. They are not originally made in Zimbabwe. They are actually imported into the country. And people who are doing this are the same people who come and say, educate your children not to take it. Educate your children not to do this. Educate children not to do that. What I'm trying to say is we have the laws which regulate the entry of all these substances into the country. We have the laws which regulate the use of these drugs. So why don't we just sit down and say, no, the problem is at the border. The problem is at the airport. Why don't we talk about that? Why do we try to avoid those questions? Why do we try to avoid those issues? Then the other thing is, how can you have a president who is always associated with the possible, with the alleged criminals, with the people, whoever, when you hear of you hear of an armed robbery, and you hear they were and you hear they were ex-ZANU-PF, and you hear they were war veterans, you hear they were ex-soldiers, and then you keep searching. You will find those criminals photos somewhere with the leader of a certain political party, with the leader of a certain government. How is that easy to just track? When we say we have drugs in Zimbabwe, then we just try to track a bit of the drugs. We don't go far. We don't need a lot. We don't need underground investigations. We don't need even a qualified police officer or someone to investigate it. We just find it. It's close here. We find the president is here. He has pictures with this criminal. He has pictures with this alleged criminal. This criminal on the social media right now, of people in ZANU-PF smoking something like marijuana, and they were saying like this is coming from Babam Nangagwa, and we have this from Babam Nangagwa. Why don't they mention other names, like it's coming from maybe let me give an example of a minister, just a mere minister. They will take it to the presidium. Why is that so? So if we have such a scenario in a country, how do we regulate it? How do we put this mosquito to regulate malaria to try and end the situation in a country where we have drugs? Then we ask the same politicians who are the perpetrators to come now and try to find a solution. I heard people trying to say, no, let's not try to politicize this. But how can we run away from politics when our everyday life is being run by politicians? How can we say, no, ZANU-PF is innocent in this case when we have the same politicians? I want to give you a hint and maybe a clarification to say. You saw this guy by the name Padari. He came here when the space was starting. Then he said, what he said. I will apologize for saying all nonsense he said. After that, he dropped. Then he came back again. He said something. Now I don't see him on the listeners, even on the speaker stand. He already gone. So how do
No,
you?
Mkoma Albert, they've just gone to open a space to counter this one. I'm not too sure what they are doing there. But, well, we are going to stick to our guns, and what is wrong is wrong, and Zimbabwe is going to move forward, whether with them or without them, unfortunately.
So what I'm trying to say is that they come to your space, they try to shape a narrative, they try to give you what to say, they try to tell you that America is also doing it, so and so is also doing it, so it might be correct, and we might have so and so issues, this and that, but we don't have to go that far. We just have to identify, no, we have the problem with these people. We have pictures of a certain leader who is seen with the pipe of marijuana. We have seen a lot of activities in ZANU-PF which have supported these drugs and these drug lords. When we say Apashava, it might be this, then when we try to track him, we end up in ZANU-PF offices. We end up in the State House. When we try to say, this guy is selling, this guy called DJ Fandad is selling these drugs. When we try to track him, it ended up there in the offices. When we try to go to Bedbridge, as this other guy was saying, we don't go anywhere. We don't find any other political party there. We find all in ZANU-PF. So what I'm trying to say is, when they come to our spaces, when they come to these institutions, they try to shape a different narrative to say, no, this is a global, this is international, this is what, but we have to look at it at a national level to say, where is it coming from? Where is it, how is the bronchial entering the country? Don't we have regulations at the border? Is it even allowed? Who are the officers there? Isn't ZANU-PF having a lot of officials there? Aren't they able to regulate these drugs into the country? That's what we have to look at, not to go too far to say, no, they are happening elsewhere else. That's what I wanted to say. Then also I wanted to mention a single thing to say. This is a health matter. When you get into those addictive drugs, it's your own problem. I know there are maybe one or two youth who are listening. I'm also youthful, and I appreciate that I got to escape the drug problem. So I wanted to just say, this is a health, a mental health matter. This is also educational. This is also something that you can live, a problem that you can live with it throughout your life. To say you are now addicted to something like heroin, so you won't be able to be yourself. You won't be able to do it yourself. You won't be able to do anything yourself. So those people who are actually selling, they are actually stealing your money at the expense of your future. So you have to be sure, you have to make sure that you avoid these addictive drugs. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koma Albert there, and it's very important that people should really take charge of themselves. You mustn't even think about which part of the community are you staying, which political dimension are you following. What's important is your health. What's important is your children's health. What's also important is your community and your country. So I think as we are winding down, Koma Champion, I didn't give you a chance to speak before. Masi, I think I'll give you a chance after Koma Champion has got his problem network. And as Dr. Maifa has just said at the middle of the program, to say this being an educational program, this being a program that will help Zimbabwe, we also decided that we need to stream it live on our YouTube channel, and then also if you go to change radio, it is there. This is in order for the audience to be so diverse and people will hear what we'll be talking about. So as we are speaking, we need to really understand that there are a number of people who will be listening to this such programs which are so important. Goma Champion, I'll give you your 4 minutes. Go ahead.
Masirase muri kundinzwa here first of all ndisati ndaenda kure?
Ndokunzwa Goma Champion enderera mberi.
All right. Ndandichiti paya muri kuona zviri kuitwa nevanhu vari muZANU PF ka vari kushandisa apartheid script. Project cost is the same way how the apartheid was doing. Kutengesa madrugs kuti vanhu vasava nefocus yeupenyu, vasava nefocus yokuti vabvise hurumende, ndo zviri kuitwa nehurumende yatinayo. And the other simple thing that all of us we should be able to see kuti vaya vanouya vachitaura panapa kuti unoziva aiwa ZANU PF iri kudai government iri kudai inhema. Ukaona hurumende inoisa mapolling stations 3 panzvimbo yakakura, zviri kureva izvozvo, zviri kureva kuti ichi chihurumende hachina hanya nevoting, hachina hanya nekuti vanhu vadiki vachinje upenyu hwavo, vave noupenyu hwakashanduka, vave noupenyu hunodziya, hunoshanda, hunoonekwa. Ndosaka muchiona vava kutopinda madrugs vachitoti aiwa ngatitengese madrugs because tikarega kudaro vapfana vanotibvisa, ende kana vatibvisa vana vedu vanozotadza kudi kudya nhaka. That's their aim. Musambofunga kuti chii chiri kuitika whatsoever. Vanhu vari kuisa madrugs mumastreets vari kuzikamwa. Handiti the same way yakatanga makorokoza kare kunana 2002 kuya is the same way yakatanga madrugs. Handiti achitengeswa matengeserwo ari kuitwa ewayo kuti izvozvo ukaenda kuany reserve uchiti kutsvaga fuel haiwanikwi pafilling station, inowanikwa mumba. The same applies zviri kuitika pamadrugs. Anongotengeswa chiripo, anotengeswa chimuhande. Ende vanhu vanenge vachitengesa vanenge vachitozikamwa, ende vanoescortwa, ende vanhu vacho futi vazhinji vanotoprotectwa because vanenge vachinzi muri kuita basa rakanaka nechihurumende chiripo ichi. So this is the problem that we have. All of us, if we can be able to teach vamwe vedu kuti no, chinhu chokutanga kuti tive nezvinoonekwa, ngatishandirei nyika. Ose madrug peddlers, madrug lords, take the future of our people seriously. Tinosera tichitumwa nezvidhara, tinosera tichiita se ukaona uchiri panguva yekuti unotumwa nechidhara uchichidhifenda pa Twitter uchiita sei hausati wakura deno kungoti vanhu havana butsotsi deno muchilista dzimba dzevanhu ivava vanouya pano pamaplatforms vachi mondoisa madrugs muvana vavo kuti varwadziwe because they're stupid. Kana uchida kugona mbavha kuirongera ndosaka paya nhaka yeupenyu chikuziva kuti kugona muchenjeri kumutakudza vana vake. Wai vachitaura kudaro vanokudzidzisa kuti vana vari kupiwa madrugs iwo unoya uchidhifenda. Vaifanira kutsvagirwa vana vavo vopiwa madrugswo vorwadziwa voshava futi mishonga yekuenda kuzvipatara. They would learn, they should learn, and they will learn if we do that. But tikazvitora zvedu unoziva tongobata zvedu namasoft hands unoziva chichi iwe unofunga kuti ungoda kufananidza nyaya yemadrugs iri kuitika kuZimbabwe nokuAmerica. Wakatokwana unotoya kutotaura pano unoziva kuAmerica kuna madrugs chakazoti. Saka iwe unombondiudza here kuti saka panext door pakaita muroi newotondoroya wotogara bere kuti oshinga kutogara bere kuti aiwa ini ndakutogara bere nokuti panext door pakaita munhu unogara bere. We must not take our life cheap like that. Handizivi kuti tinombosvika here panguva yekuti unoza kana wakagara pasi zvibvunze wonyatsozvibvunza kuti chinonzi kufunga chii, chinonzi upenyu chii, because I don't see it, we are taking it seriously. Kana tichawana nguva yekutaura kuti unoziva kuAmerica unoziva so unoziva ndakanga ndimboshanda kuIndiana. Hatisi kushanda kuIndiana. Tiri kutaura nyaya yemadrugs muZimbabwe. Let's take them seriously. Let's remove those drugs. Kwakusina madrugs esaya. Vana vatevedzera mitemo. Takakudzwa nemitemo isu. Takakudzwa tichirohwa. That's why nhasi uno uchitinzwa chitaura pamaplatforms chitaura zvinhu kwazvo. Because takadzidziswa nevabereki kwavo. Zvino munoita hamudi kudzidziswa. Hamudi kuita sei. Taifanira kuti paaitaura ipapo kuti unoziva uko zvine zvabereka havachatendedzi kurova vana, havachatendedzi kudiscipline, taifanira kudai takaramba. Because vana vari kuitwa imha ndevedu, vavo vanenge vari kunana England. Isu tangoti baba vedu vachipinda muzvikoro zvanamutora huku. Totofunga kuti takangwara kana tasvika pamaplatforms unoziva ina handidi kutaura zvamadrugs ini, ina handidi kutaura zvakanaka ini, ina handidi ndoda kumboSapota, ndoda kumbovanda ndisapota mbavha. Sapoti akomba vasingana mangwana mwana ndewako unoiswa madrugs. Sambofunga kuti zvanzi kwai mangwana unosura uchinzi unoza chiyakusvoda. Havakusvodi, and they will never care about you because haumo mumepu yavo. Saka the best way deal with this issue. Nyaya yemadrugs haisi nyaya yekuti tinosura ida kutaura kuti chakazoti hurumende iri kukonewa. And unotaura kuti my government tiri kumuziva. Mose muri kuziva kuti hurumende ndeyani. Unotofamba itotaura kuti my government isingagoni kana kusunga vanhu. Izvozvi zvikungonza ungoti takuta chimusangano chetripusi uchapunyepu mapasa zouya. Vanhu vanotengesa madrugs. How have we become to such a situation? Moda kufamba muchitaura kuti isu vanhu kuZimbabwe kana mwakati tukazvesho because we don't know what is life. We don't respect human life. We don't respect our identity. We don't respect our dignity. Takombe kashanga. Vanapoi material. And we have to accept such kind of system. Unoziva inini ndina madegree 12 ndakazo iwe katigara yamadrugs chimbosiya zvemadhigiri zvako zvakana basa mwana wangu akakoma drugs iwe ukabvumira uchiti unoziva ndakazodai ndikazodai. Unoda kupromota utunhu, unoda kupromota zvisina basa. Challenge is here. Do something about these drugs. If it takes you to say, let me have a new government, yes, it's justifiable. Why? Because the current government is useless. The current government does not do anything. anogona kusungashamisa ndo madrugs angondivhudze shamisa ndo madrugs enyu here munosera muchidzingirira nawo muchisiya munosiya madrugs chaiwo chaiwo munosera muchitenesa navanhu ve3 C imi muchizwa kuti madrugs arimo makuita sei chaizvo chaizvo musera muchisunga vanhu private meeting budi musera muchisunga vanhu basa madrugs achipinda muchitofara kuti anoza ndapa $200 profit drugs hauziva kuti mangana zviri kuuya kwako ende zviri kuuya where we are right now. If you don't take action uchazozviona ende zvichafa nenyika uchamufurena mutamako asingazivi uchaona uchinzi mufurena mumamako machinese akutsingirira chisiya ende handidi kuza nhema don't care ndinokuda benziyo wadzikirirwa benziyo allow yourself ini ndakazo nyaya izvofamba ndinodzidzisa pakati unodzidzisa pakati yevo hatirambi asi vari kuti chii vamwe hamunaombosangana namasuluka lengongo don't take your seriously. Why madaro? Because iduna mutuna. A person without a purpose, a person without a reason.
Yeah. Mukoma champion ndofunga network yenyu iri kukukanganisai, but I think you mataura zvandaona kuti ndofunga since mamboita nguva musingatauri maona, but thank you very much for your concerns, and I think you have addressed it the way that you think. Mukoma Ndaba na Masi, I'm gonna give you your last moments, then todi towaenda hedu mazvita henyu nekumirira kwenguva yakaita saiyo. Saka Mukoma Ndaba, you can speak, after which you get Masi. Dr. Maifa, you round up.
Oh, thank you, Mukoma Denford. You know, when we were growing up, we envied to be children of the elite because of the privileges they had. Those guys used to go to better schools. When they finished high school, they would go abroad for further studies. On coming back, they would be deployed in positions of influence, permanent secretaries and the like. But nowadays, it's sad in that their fathers impoverished the entire Zimbabwe, and they have recruited their children to take advantage of the impoverished people to make business on drugs. It is disheartening to hear people of professorship caliber comparing Zimbabwe's drug abuse with America as if that will lessen or makes Zimbabwe better in using drugs. What is bad is bad. We expect people who claim to be professors to help us investigate causes of failure rates. As we speak, Zimbabwe recorded 28% pass rate at all levels. But you hear an adult saying drugs is an international issue. It's not the problem which is only isolated to Zimbabwe. That's rubbish. My dear people, let's encourage our people back home to go and register to vote and turn out to vote in numbers for change. Because as long as ZANU-PF is in power, there is nowhere we are going. Our youth are destroyed. If you destroy the youth, you are destroying the seed of a nation. We need to be serious, honestly. I was so angered by some presentations I had this morning that we have people who defend social ills like that. But thank you, Comrade Denford, and my co-host. This was a good space indeed. Let's continue engaging on such discussions. The message will go and probably will reap results in the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mkomandaba, and we'll press on. We'll press on, and it's not an individual's responsibility. Let's hear Mercy.
Thanks, Stanford and Dr. Amai. I think for me, I have to be very clear. Government, to me, right now, is inferring to all who have power to govern from whatever levels that they govern from, be it from a local point of view, be it a communal point of view, be it a provincial with others, the incoming and outgoing of substances that need to be managed. All those who manage institutions that can have any benefit if they were used effectively, economically, and all the other stuff. All of those people I'm not discriminating based on political party. As long as you are in office and the public's trust has been put in you to deliver, you are responsible for this drug issue. From a local point of view, you are the eyes that are seeing the activities that are happening in your community. You are the ears that must hear the problems of the people that are in that particular area. You are also entirely your whole senses to make up the solutions that must fix those issues, to identify the opportunities that exist that may enhance other things, to prevent the bad from getting above levels that you can control and diminishing the full potential that your area of influence may get. What? Managers, councillors themselves, MPs, senators. We can't just be so focused on just saying this must be a burden for this. No, these people sit collectively for the running of our country. At that level, we have our own responsibility. I'm not exempting us. From a family point of view, we are responsible. From an individual level, you are responsible. Then there are other civil society organizations, religious organizations, they must take on their own responsibilities. But where my issue was, from a government point of view, where even as we speak right now, there is not a call for us to hold people accountable to show us the plans that they have for this crisis that we have identified, to deal with the issues that we cannot cope with in our individual capacity or as a community or as civils, where we say this is what you must be responsible. So far, we are 6 months or how many months before elections, and we are prompting each other to elect different, alternatively, maintain the status quo. But we are not actually saying what is on offer by all these people to deal with this crisis. There are no manifestos showing us what are the actual methods that they will deal with this. From a policing point of view, we haven't had a prospective MP who has said, no, I've identified my crisis in my community to be above the crisis that is happening. Because we know there are disparities of effect. We know that our major urban cities have the greatest risk of the myriad of drugs that are available. That doesn't mean that in rural areas do not suffer their own substance misuse problems, but the urban areas. Now, from that urban area, we have not seen any proposals from anyone who says, because this problem is specifically affecting us more so than others, I'm proposing bylaws specific to here, bylaws that will actually facilitate the funding of these projects. No, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen them attempt to say, in the bylaws, I propose the training of the institutions that will deal with the policing. That is specific. Tadini mentioned, for the first time, we start to see the dog unit. There is no policy that has been now said for every what are the roadblock, there must be a police dog that is there for the purposes of not just catching motorists without a license, a bad vehicle, but also so that we have an opportunity to catch drugs as they are in transit. No, there's no one proposing that. All we are getting is, well, don't vote for these ones because they are so poor. But for us to vote for you, I think we have a responsibility as citizens to say, if we identify that the youth, because of the impact of drugs, their critical autonomy has been so impacted that they cannot self-advocate for the policies that they want, the unaffected must then act as the responsible adult and demand these services be available. But no, we are not even calling the ones we are asking to represent us to produce for us methods in which this will be done. Projects that will actually keep this running. How will they be sustainable? How will you enforce and ensure that government actually pays? Because whether we like it or not, results will come out. They may go your way and they may go against what you had wanted, collective or central. But from a local point of view, have you held responsible to ensuring that the representative there actually is the best one with the best plan? Harare, for example, its crisis is more than it is in Bulawayo. I'm not saying Bulawayo doesn't, I'm saying equitably. Because of its population size, because of the other multiple indices of deprivation that affect Harare itself. So, and we can't equate the effect of drugs on rich people and the effects of drugs on poor people. When rich people are affected by drugs, we saw the children of the ex-president being suspiciously taken out of Dubai. How were they affected? Moved to another country and continued with their lives. Our children, are they impacted the same? Your child gets thrown out of UZ. What's the other alternative you have? Gets arrested and creates a criminal record for themselves. How has that impacted them as they progress with their lives? So to me, I think if we say government, we must be honest about what it is that we're calling government. We can't be selective because we give others an excuse to not produce the evidence of their ability to actually get rid of the problem. Right now, as we go into the campaign, if we consider in some localities that drugs become a priority, in their manifestos, those things must headline. There mustn't be a representative who's asking for our vote who doesn't have that as in their top 10 of priorities. And he must not be equated to a person who's in another jurisdiction where this issue is not that much. We know there are areas like that. Their issue could be marijuana. Their issue could be alcohol. And it could be the only thing. But within their local community, they've got their own strategies for dealing with that. Then we now need to know, how are we dealing from a policy point of view when we catch Mbaj. Okay, let me finish 1 minute. If we are accusing my landlords of actually being the producers and sellers of this Zimbabwe. And we understand that from an economic point of view, we haven't got the finance to do the rehabilitation of the affected people, the victims of drugs. Why is there no one proposing a law that tikakubata uri drug lord, we will now consider your assets proceeds of crime, and these will be absorbed by the local authority for the establishment of the rehab centers. It happens in other countries. But there's no one who's seeing it as an opportunity to propose legislation that will now also come with a solution that finances the problem that is created by the criminal. So government, guys, let's take it seriously. And elections, let's take them seriously. Manifestos, let's take them seriously. A person must produce a plan and must show us how that plan will be executed, how that plan will be financed, when it will be evaluated, what is hoped to be achieved. Give us figures. You will reduce it by how many percent, by when? So that when the next round of re-election comes, we are judging you based on what you sold to us that you will do. But if we continue to pussyfoot and then just keep chucking the baby from one person to another with no solutions, and not being explicit what we demand from these people, they'll always sell us a dart. One will just accuse the other of being worse. They provide no evidence of being able to take on the problem. And we get excited, we put them on, and then we are still left with the problem. So let's wait for these manifestos, demand the manifestos to come out quick, so we have plenty of time to evaluate them, and then to go back to them and say, this plan is not enough, we need more. Or what do you mean you haven't included this aspect when it is definitely a critical issue? Drugs will affect the poorer worse than the rich. Mary was accused by Chiwenga of taking drugs. Mary accused Chiwenga of facilitating her with the drugs. So we've always had drugs affecting from the poorest to the richest, but how we will be impacted is different. Let's advocate for us, the poorer people, to not end up being impacted so drastically that we have a population of vanhu vakastika. Ivo havastike, isusu ndisu takastika apa. No solutions, not holding anybody accountable and passing the buck. Ndaphetsa.
Thank you very much, Mercy, and so much appreciated of what you've just highlighted. Let's say I have Dr. Amaifa parting shots.
Thank you very much, my sister Mercy, for your submissions, the earlier one and this recent one. And thank you, everyone else who participated in the discussions and those who were listening. It's important to have listeners, otherwise no audience, then there's no Twitter space. As a reminder, I'll ask King Albert to please pin the YouTube channel so that people who missed out on the previous recordings can have a chance to listen for the purpose of disseminating the truthful or correct information to the majority of the Zimbabweans. That's the purpose why that channel was created. Right. Having said it all, there is a problem in Zimbabwe, and the government is not doing anything or is not doing much. Writing a policy without implementing it, without providing resources for its implementation, without even evaluating the progress of that project, it's useless. So let's not lie to each other. Like I said in the beginning, I have my own blood relatives who are on drugs. And right now, there's no remedy because each one needs 1,200 to be administered for 6 months. And it doesn't mean that the problem will go away in 6 months. And this is like a security deposit. It's not the whole, cost. I think something like $200 a day for admission. So that's a lot of money. Where do people get money from? Some of the so-called rehabilitation centers that we have back home is just like a an area of confinement where they try to make sure you don't have access to drugs, but there's no actual therapy per se. So let's help our relatives. Let's help our communities. Some of us here could be professional mental health practitioners. If you have ways of helping our parents back home, please do. They need information before it's too late. Like, for example, mukaona mwana akutanga kudai kana kuti akukupindurai. In our culture, we never talk back to our parents. Mukaona mwana kutokuchallenge hai kana kuti mukaona ma-eating habits omwana akudai, mukaona mabasa ake ekuchikoro akudai, or mukaona ma-friends ake, whatever piece of information that we could share in social media, on social media, whatever platform, let's help each other as Zimbabweans. Nokuti varipo vamwe vabereki vasina clue, unotozongoona mwana akukurova ndoshaya kuti zviri kufamba sei. All those also who are connected to church groups back home, let's send the message there so that the churches can do their role. Unfortunately, some of the so-called churches are also selling the drugs. It's so sad, but we pray that there's gonna be a solution. And in about 40 minutes time, there's going to be prayer for Zimbabwe. Just follow, I think, my Kukuma's, my etc. Let's pray for this drug. This is a demon. It has to be cast out of our country. So let's pray. Prayer works too. So thank you, everyone. And we really appreciate you being here. Back to you, Mkom.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Maifa, and we are so appreciative of the people that have just come to give their submission. Some we were actually giving limited time for them to speak. It is a sign that people are so much concerned. Yes, we know maybe about 70 to 80% of the listeners and speakers that were here could not be in Zimbabwe, so they could not be directly affected by this issue of drugs, but they can, however, be indirectly affected by these drugs. And also, we need to really understand that because of the passion for our country, everybody wants to see good in their country. So I'm so much happy that we see people coming to have such a discussion, and we are having a very credible discussion in which we need to shape the policy of our body politic. I'm happy that Masi has highlighted and talked about how we can, as social media people, can influence their manifestos. It is because in November 2017, when we realized that the army and those people who were responsible for making sure that the late President Robert Mugabe is to leave office, the whole of Zimbabwe came together because they realized that this is an opportunity to do away with the dictatorial tendencies of the late President Robert Mugabe. It was our aim to make sure that Zimbabwe comes right. Unfortunately, it didn't come the way that we wanted. Today, we are faced with this dilemma of the drugs, and it's a ticking time bomb. We need to make sure that we need to gather together as what the Zimbabweans did in 2017, and then we don't need to show our political differences. Let's just make sure that we do away with these people who are peddling with drugs. I'm also happy that I see our honorable member of parliament, Fortune Chassis, with us here. I would also want to believe he is going to be contributing to what is being said, and I see him in different platforms. We applaud him for that. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And until we meet again next week, when we are going to be talking about these important issues that are bedeviling our societies, our country, we appreciate. Thank you very much. God bless everybody. Thank you.